You've been taught that acceptance means giving up, that if you stop fighting, life will leave you behind, that if you don't control everything, everything will fall apart. But if that were true, why does clinging so tightly make you feel even more exhausted? Why does trying to force life only leave you more anxious, more bitter, more broken? The truth is, real strength isn't found in fighting the river. It's found in learning how to float. Buddhist wisdom has known this for centuries. The greatest teachers unlocked the secret to peace, freedom, and deep joy, not by winning every battle, but by learning when to let go, by learning how to trust the flow of life, even when the current feels wild. Tonight, as you listen to these teachings, something will start to shift. The pressure in your chest will soften. The endless what-ifs running through your mind will lose their power. You'll start to feel a space inside you, quiet, calm, steady, a space that no fear or disappointment can touch. And when you wake up tomorrow, life won't seem like a fight anymore. It will feel like an open road. This isn't just another audio to help you sleep. This is a doorway to a new way of living. Are you ready? Let's begin. And now that the door has opened, it's time to step through it. Not by force, not by pressure, but with a quiet power that rises from deep inside. Tonight, we begin by discovering the first key that can unlock a different kind of strength. A strength that doesn't shout, doesn't fight, doesn't break under pressure. A strength that feels like coming home. They told you strength was about holding on, clenching your fists, pushing harder. But what if true strength is found in opening your hands? What if the power you've been searching for was never in the fight, but in the surrender you were too afraid to trust? Every day, the world teaches resistance. From the moment you wake up, there's pressure to resist your own tiredness, to resist the weather, to resist traffic, to resist every small thing that doesn't go according to plan. Over time, that resistance becomes a habit. And that habit becomes a heavy armor you wear without even realizing it. But armor is heavy for a reason. It slows you down. It closes you off. It makes it harder to feel, harder to breathe, harder to truly live. Buddhism teaches something radical. It teaches that what you call giving up is actually where real courage lives. Not in fighting life, but in learning how to meet it with openness, in softening your grip, even when every part of you screams to hold tighter. When a river meets a rock, the water doesn't stop. It doesn't waste its energy cursing the rock, wishing it away. The water flows around it. It adapts. It moves with life, not against it. And in doing so, over time, the water shapes even the hardest stone, quietly, patiently, powerfully. Surrender, in this way, isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's recognizing that not everything can, or should, be controlled. It's understanding that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop trying to force the river to change its course and instead learn how to float, how to glide, how to trust. But that trust doesn't come easy. It's not about blind faith or wishful thinking. It's about something deeper, a lived experience that shows you, again and again, that life carries you forward, even when you don't know how. Think about all the battles you fought that led nowhere. All the times you resisted a change that ended up being good for you. All the times you held on to something long after it had already let go of you. That resistance didn't save you. It only made the fall harder, the grief heavier, the fear louder. Resistance is built on fear. Fear that if you don't fight, you'll lose. Fear that if you surrender, you'll disappear. But surrender doesn't erase you. It reveals you. It strips away the illusions, the masks, the defenses, and it leaves you face to face with something unbreakable inside. The greatest strength you can develop is the ability to meet reality as it is, not as you wish it were. When you resist, you use your energy to build walls. When you surrender, you use that same energy to build bridges, to connect with life instead of fighting it, to move forward with less pain, less exhaustion, less bitterness. Surrender isn't giving up your dreams or your values. It's giving up the need to control how and when they unfold. It's trusting that your role is to show up fully and honestly without trying to bully life into obeying your timeline. Because life has its own rhythm, and when you learn to listen to it, to dance with it, to trust its beat even when it makes no sense, something shifts inside you. Peace begins to replace anxiety. Openness begins to replace anger. Courage begins to replace fear. Buddhist monks often talk about the lotus flower. It grows in mud, in the dirtiest, murkiest waters, yet it rises, pure and radiant, above the surface, not by fighting the mud, not by pretending the mud isn't there, but by using it as nourishment, as fuel for growth. You don't need perfect conditions to live beautifully, you just need to stop fighting the mud. Acceptance doesn't mean liking everything that happens. It doesn't mean becoming passive or giving up on trying to make a difference. It means starting from a place of honesty. This is what is happening. This is where I am. Only from there can real change happen. Only from there can real healing begin. Non-resistance gives you the clearest view of reality. And when you see reality clearly, you make better choices. You act from wisdom, not from panic. You move with the current of life, not against it. There's a story told in Zen circles about a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors said, "What bad luck?" But the farmer simply replied, "Maybe." Later, the horse returned, bringing with it 3 wild horses. "What good luck," said the neighbors. Again, the farmer said, "Maybe." Then the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, was thrown off and broke his leg. The neighbors exclaimed, "What terrible luck!" The farmer calmly said, "Maybe." Later, soldiers came to the village to recruit young men for war. Because the farmer's son had a broken leg, he was spared. What seemed bad turned out good. What seemed good turned out bad. And through it all, the farmer stayed peaceful. That is the heart of surrender. Not labeling every event as good or bad right away. Not getting trapped in the endless roller coaster of judgment. But staying open, staying present. Trusting that life's larger story is bigger than the small chapter you're living right now. When you resist, you shrink. Your world gets smaller and smaller, limited by fear and anger. When you surrender, you expand. Your world opens. Possibilities arise that resistance would never have allowed you to see. There's a quiet joy that comes from surrender, a deep, steady kind of happiness, not the loud fireworks kind that depends on everything going right, but the soft glow that remains even when things fall apart. Because when you stop fighting life, you stop fighting yourself. Your energy stops leaking into battles you were never meant to win. Your mind stops spinning with endless what-ifs. Your heart stops breaking against walls that were never going to move. And suddenly, there's room inside you, room for healing, room for creativity, room for peace. Real courage isn't holding on tighter, it's letting go with grace. It's saying, even if I don't understand why this is happening, I choose to trust the river of life. I choose to flow, not fight. This doesn't mean you'll never feel pain. Pain is part of life. But suffering, that extra layer of misery that comes from resisting pain, that's optional. That's where surrender changes everything. When you can sit with discomfort without trying to shove it away, when you can face uncertainty without demanding instant answers, when you can love even what hurts because you see it as part of the whole, that's when you become truly powerful. And the beauty of this kind of strength is that no one can take it from you. It doesn't depend on circumstances. It doesn't depend on winning or achieving or being praised. It lives inside you, quiet, steady, unbreakable. The softness of surrender is not weak. It's resilient. It's flexible. It's wise. Like bamboo bending in a storm while oak trees snap. Like water cutting through rock with patience and time. So tonight, as you fall asleep, let your armor fall away too. Let the fights you've been carrying loosen their grip. Let the parts of you that are tired of struggling finally rest. There's nothing you have to prove, nothing you have to fix, nothing you have to force. The river already knows the way. Your only job is to let go and float. And in that floating, you will find a strength you never knew you had. A strength born not from conquering life, but from embracing it. You're not lost. You're not broken. You're simply learning to stop resisting the current that was always trying to carry you home. And in that soft surrender, a new kind of life begins. One that doesn't just survive the storms, but dances through them with grace. And once you start floating with life instead of fighting it, something even more beautiful begins to unfold. A softer understanding creeps in, one you might not even notice at first. You begin to see that life was never supposed to be a perfect chain of victories lined up neatly like trophies. It was always meant to be messy, wild, unfinished. You start to see that even the moments you once thought were mistakes are carrying something golden inside them if you look closely enough. There's a quiet kind of wisdom hidden inside the moments that don't go your way. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention, but it holds the kind of lessons that perfect moments could never teach. The mind is always rushing, always calculating, always pushing for the next milestone, but life itself moves differently. It unfolds in spirals, in starts and stops, in broken plans and unexpected turns. It's easy to believe that the delays are the problem. It's easy to think that if only life had cooperated, everything would have been better. But when you stop to look a little deeper, you realize something stunning. The things you once cursed for holding you back were quietly weaving you into someone wiser, someone softer, someone stronger. The greatest growth in your life has never come from things going exactly right. It came from the delays that made you wait, from the mistakes that cracked you open, from the times you thought you were lost but were actually being redirected. Every setback carried a seed. Every failure whispered a message. Every broken plan cleared the ground for something new to grow. There is a patience you can only learn by standing still when you desperately want to move forward. There is a tenderness that can only grow in the soil of disappointment. Nature never rushes. A tree doesn't panic if it hasn't grown tall enough by spring. A river doesn't apologize for carving a different path when it meets an obstacle. Only humans punish themselves for not meeting imaginary timelines. Only humans call themselves failures for not arriving fast enough, good enough, strong enough. But what if you were never late? What if the very detour you're on is not a detour at all, but the exact path you need? When a cup cracks, it doesn't stop being a cup. When a day falls apart, it doesn't stop being part of your story. When you fall short, you don't stop being worthy of love and happiness. The cracks, the flaws, the delays, they are part of the design. They make the story worth telling. They make you relatable, human, real. The parts of yourself you want to hide are often the parts that others find most beautiful because they recognize themselves in you. No one connects with a perfect facade. People connect with each other through shared brokenness, shared uncertainty, shared hope. In Japan, when pottery breaks, it's not thrown away. It's repaired with gold. The cracks are filled with beauty. They don't try to hide the damage. They honor it. They believe the object is more beautiful for having been broken. And so are you. Your broken plans, your interrupted dreams, your messy mornings and lonely nights. They are not mistakes to erase. They are gold seams in the pottery of your life. The mind loves straight lines and perfect endings, but life doesn't work like that. Life loops and doubles back. Life skips beats. Life spills coffee on the pages of your plans. Life tears holes in your favorite shirt. And somehow, through all of it, life is still offering you something sacred, still inviting you to open your heart wider, not narrower, still teaching you that the value of a day is not measured by how perfect it looks on paper, but by how fully you lived it, scars and all. There's an old story about a monk chased by a tiger. He runs to the edge of a cliff and grabs a vine to keep from falling. The tiger snarls above him. Sharp rocks wait below, and while hanging there, he notices a ripe strawberry growing from the cliffside. With one hand, he picks it. With the other, he eats it. It's the sweetest strawberry he's ever tasted. He doesn't wait for safety. He doesn't wait for the perfect moment. He finds beauty right there in the middle of fear and uncertainty and chaos. Your life is filled with strawberries growing from cliffs, sweetness hidden inside uncertainty, beauty hiding in the imperfect moment. But if you are always waiting for the fear to pass, the uncertainty to vanish, the chaos to end, you'll miss them. You'll miss the sweetness that only exists right here, right now, exactly as things are. Every delay in your life has stretched you in ways you cannot yet see. Every broken plan has trained a hidden muscle in you. Patience, trust, surrender, resilience. If you had gotten everything you wanted at the moment you wanted it, you might have stayed smaller than you were meant to be. Some of the things you once prayed for would have kept you trapped. Some of the goals you once clung to would have limited your growth. Sometimes the delays you hate the most are the ones that saved you without you even knowing it. Life doesn't punish you when it slows you down. It prepares you. It grows you. It softens you where you were brittle. It deepens you where you were shallow. It stretches you into spaces you didn't even know you had inside you. Growth is not clean and orderly. Growth is awkward. Growth is uncertain. Growth looks like losing your way, doubting yourself, falling and getting back up 100 times without even knowing why you keep trying. The wisdom of the imperfect moment is the wisdom of trusting the mess. Trusting that life knows what it's doing even when you don't. Trusting that the pause is not empty but full of invisible work. Trusting that your delays are not dead ends but winding roads to better destinations you couldn't have planned if you tried. You don't have to understand it all right now. You don't have to feel good about it all right now. You just have to stay open. You just have to breathe. You just have to trust that even in the places that feel broken, life is still holding you, still shaping you, still loving you. You are not failing because you are waiting. You are not broken because you are hurting. You are not lost because you can't see the whole map yet. You are exactly where you need to be for your soul to learn its next lesson. And it is learning, even when you can't feel it, even when you can't see the results, even when all you have are questions and half-finished dreams. There is a rhythm to life that your mind will never fully understand, but your heart can feel if you listen. It is not the rhythm of deadlines or expectations. It is the rhythm of seasons, of tides, of breath. It is the rhythm that says some things need time to grow, some lessons need time to ripen, some healing needs space to bloom. You are not late, you are not behind. You are growing at the pace your soul needs. You are arriving exactly when you are ready. You are unfolding exactly the way the universe has always meant for you to unfold. So, let the flaws be flaws. Let the delays be delays. Let the imperfections be the fingerprints of something sacred taking shape inside you. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. This is the perfect moment. Because it's real. Because it's yours. Because it's enough. And when you stop demanding life to fit your plans, when you stop demanding yourself to be flawless, you will finally see the beauty that was here all along. You will taste the sweetness of the strawberry growing out of the cliff. You will feel the gold filling the cracks of your heart. And maybe then you'll realize that nothing was ever missing, that nothing was ever broken, that everything, even the delays, even the flaws, was leading you deeper into the life you were always meant to live. And once you stop fighting for the perfect moment and begin to cherish life as it is, something even deeper starts to rise inside you. A soft shift in the way you breathe, the way you look at your own story. You start to see that not every chapter needs a clear ending, that not every wound needs a perfect scar to be complete, that maybe the healing isn't in finding the missing piece, but in living fully with the space it left behind. There's a kind of freedom that only appears when you stop asking life to explain itself, when you stop needing everything to add up perfectly, when you stop chasing closure like it's the secret to your happiness. Somewhere along the way, you were taught that everything broken must be fixed, that every hurt must be explained, that every goodbye must be tied up with words that make sense. But what if the unfinished parts of your life were not mistakes? What if the open endings were sacred spaces, left unfinished because they were meant to stay open? Life isn't a series of solved puzzles. It's a series of unfolding mysteries. Some things are not puzzles to solve, but experiences to feel, lessons to carry, love to release without needing to understand. Closure is one of the mind's clever traps. It promises peace if only you can dig deep enough into the past, if only you can find the right explanation, the right apology, the right ending. But the truth is, peace was never trapped behind a door you had to close. Peace was always waiting in the moment you stopped needing the door to close at all. Some people will never give you the answers you crave. Some questions will echo unanswered for a lifetime. Some stories will fade without ever telling you why they ended the way they did. And still, you can be free. Still, you can be whole. Healing doesn't happen because you get the perfect apology. Healing doesn't happen because you uncover every reason behind the hurt. Healing happens because you decide you deserve peace more than you deserve answers. Healing happens when you stop demanding life to give you what it never promised. A clean ending, a tied-up story, a reason that takes away the pain. Sometimes there is no reason that can make the pain smaller. Sometimes the only way out is through, carrying your questions with tenderness instead of anger. You are allowed to live a beautiful life even with unfinished conversations echoing in your mind. You are allowed to smile again even if some chapters ended with tears instead of triumphs. You are allowed to keep growing even if some endings never felt fair, never felt clear, never felt right. The beauty of an unfinished story is that it keeps unfolding in you. It leaves room for new pages, new characters, new meanings you never would have discovered if every thread had been neatly tied. When you hold on to the need for closure, you hold on to a weight that life never meant for you to carry. You trap yourself in waiting rooms where the door never opens, where the answers never come. But when you release the need for life to explain itself, when you let go of the idea that you must know why to be at peace, you step out of the waiting room and into the wildness of living again. You stop looking backward for the ending you never got, and you start looking around you for the life that is still here, waiting for you to notice it. There is no law that says you must understand every goodbye to move forward. There is no rule that says you must solve every heartbreak to love again. The rules you thought were real were never anything but fear dressed up in logic. Fear told you that you couldn't be okay until you understood it all. But life, real life, whispers something different. It says you don't have to understand everything to be free. It says you don't have to finish the old story to begin a new one. Sometimes the unfinished parts of your life will hum quietly in the background, like music you can never fully hear the lyrics to. Sometimes they will ache. Sometimes they will feel tender when you least expect it. But they don't have to trap you. They don't have to define you. They don't have to hold you back. You can carry them like sacred scars, not as proof of defeat, but as proof that you lived, that you loved, that you dared to open your heart in a world that guarantees no perfect endings. There's a softness that comes from accepting the unfinished, a courage that comes from facing life without demanding it to explain itself, a peace that grows not from tying up loose ends, but from weaving them into your story exactly as they are. Some of the most beautiful things in life are incomplete. The song left half-written, the painting left with rough edges, the love left without a last goodbye. The most important parts of your life are not the ones that finished neatly. They are the ones that left you breathless, changed, alive. Your story is not ruined because it didn't end the way you wanted. Your life is not broken because some answers never came. The open spaces in your story are where new light gets in. The gaps are where wonder has room to grow. The unanswered questions are not dead ends. They are invitations to live with your heart open, even when nothing is certain. So let yourself close the book without knowing how the last chapter was supposed to end. Let yourself walk away from the questions that circle without answers. Let yourself breathe in the middle of the unfinished. Let yourself live in the spaces that feel raw and unsolved. Peace is not waiting for you at the end of the story. Peace is waiting for you right here, in the middle, in the mystery, in the letting go. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find that the life you were meant to live isn't the one where you solved every riddle, closed every door, answered every question. Maybe it's the one where you danced through the uncertainty, where you laughed with an open heart, even with unanswered prayers, where you kept loving, kept trusting, kept believing, even when the ending was still unwritten. Maybe your unfinished story is exactly what makes your life so heartbreakingly, breathtakingly beautiful. And once you learn to breathe inside the unfinished parts of life, another layer of freedom begins to reveal itself. It's the freedom that comes not just from accepting unanswered questions, but from releasing the deeper, heavier contract you never realized you signed. The silent agreement that life was supposed to be fair according to your hopes. Letting go of that old agreement might be the most powerful step you ever take toward real peace. There's a kind of peace that only appears when you stop expecting life to owe you anything. When you stop waiting for the world to apologize for its storms. From the moment you were young, a quiet idea slipped into your mind, wrapped in stories, rules, and promises. Be good, and good things will happen. Work hard, and you will be rewarded. Love fully, and you will be loved in return. Somewhere along the way, without even knowing it, you signed a silent contract with life, believing that fairness was guaranteed if you just followed the script. But life never signed that contract with you. Life never promised fairness according to human standards. Life moves to a rhythm far older and wilder than the idea of fairness. And when you hold too tightly to the belief that things must unfold fairly, you don't just suffer. You stay stuck, bitter, confused by every unexpected turn. The truth is not that life is unfair. The truth is that life is free. Free to move in ways that the mind cannot predict. Free to give and take without explanations. Free to raise you up one moment and knock you down the next without ever consulting the plan you had carefully made. There is no judge standing over the world, tallying up your good deeds and delivering rewards accordingly. There is only the vast, unstoppable movement of life itself, full of seasons and cycles and chaos and beauty, weaving everything together in ways you will never fully see. Holding on to the belief that life must be fair is like demanding the ocean not have storms. It is like blaming the wind for blowing too hard. It is a fight you can never win, and it is a fight that slowly breaks your spirit. Every time something painful happens, the mind screams, "This shouldn't have happened." Every time someone betrays you, the heart pleads, "This isn't fair." And the pain doubles, not just because something hard happened, but because it happened outside the expectations you thought life had promised to keep. But when you let go of the old contract, when you stop expecting life to fit your version of fairness, you are free to meet life as it is, not as you wish it would be. You stop arguing with reality. You stop adding layers of resentment onto the raw experience of being alive. Pain still hurts, but it no longer surprises you in a way that steals your breath. Joy still lifts you, but you no longer clutch at it desperately, fearing it will be stolen because it wasn't guaranteed. You start to see life more clearly, not as a system of rewards and punishments, but as a river carrying every soul through the full range of human experience. And in that clarity, something unexpected happens. Compassion grows. Compassion for yourself, for others, even for the chaos that life sometimes feels like. You stop judging your suffering as a punishment. You stop seeing your success as a validation. You stop dividing the world into winners and losers. You stop measuring every day against the impossible ruler of whether it was fair enough to deserve your happiness. Letting go of the fairness contract doesn't mean giving up on justice, on kindness, on dreams of a better world. It means waking up to the reality that these things are not owed to you. And yet, you can still choose them. You can still fight for justice without believing you are betrayed when injustice exists. You can still live with kindness without demanding a receipt for every good deed. You can still dream without making your happiness dependent on every dream coming true. Life owes you nothing, and in that nothingness is a stunning freedom. You don't have to earn your right to be here. You don't have to prove your worth through victories. You don't have to suffer perfectly to be allowed to heal. You exist outside the old contract. You exist because you are part of this wild, spinning, sacred dance that does not sort events into neat piles labeled fair and unfair. It just moves. It just breathes. It just is. When you let go of the old idea that fairness is guaranteed, you stop taking the hard times personally. You stop seeing them as punishments or evidence that you did something wrong. You stop assuming that every heartbreak is proof that you were foolish or naive. You start to see that pain is not always a punishment, and joy is not always a prize. They are simply the waves that move through the human experience. They are simply the tides that rise and fall without asking your permission. And this does not make life cruel. It makes life alive. It makes life real. It means that love given freely is more powerful than love traded for reward. It means that acts of courage matter even when no one sees them. It means that kindness remains precious even when it is not returned. It means that your life can be beautiful and meaningful without needing to fit a human idea of fairness that was never written into the stars. There is a tenderness that grows when you stop demanding fairness. A tenderness that understands that everyone is carrying unseen battles, that everyone is walking through a life that makes no promises, that everyone is doing the best they can with the cards they were dealt. And you start to walk differently through the world, lighter, freer, more open. You stop clenching your fists at every injustice. You stop tying your happiness to whether things are deserved. You start to live from a deeper place, a place that knows that every moment is a gift, not a transaction. That every breath is grace, not a bargain. That every sunrise is a blessing, not a reward. There is a peace that comes from surrendering the old idea of fairness, a peace that whispers that you can stop keeping score, that you can stop calculating whether you have suffered enough to deserve a break, that you can stop living in the exhausting cycle of resentment and expectation. You can simply live, you can simply love, you can simply breathe. And when you live this way, you become resilient in a way that no external fairness could ever have given you. You become like the grass that bends in the wind without breaking. You become like the river that carves canyons without demanding gratitude. You become like the sky that holds both storms and sunshine without apology. Your soul was never meant to be weighed down by the scales of human fairness. Your spirit was always meant to be freer, lighter, bigger than the contracts you were taught to believe in. Life will not always be fair. People will not always be kind. Dreams will not always come true in the way you pictured. And yet you can still be whole. You can still be joyful. You can still be deeply, wildly, gloriously alive. Tonight, let the old contract go. Let the idea that life owes you fairness slip quietly out of your hands. Let yourself meet life as it is. Raw, beautiful, chaotic, imperfect. Let yourself love the world even when it doesn't love you back the way you wanted. Let yourself find peace, not in perfect justice, but in the perfect openness of your own heart. And maybe, as you fall asleep tonight, you will feel a strange new lightness in your chest, a soft understanding that you no longer have to keep score, that you no longer have to wait for life to prove itself worthy of your happiness, that you are free to live, to love, to dance, to breathe, even in a world where fairness was never the promise, but freedom was always the invitation. And once you let go of needing life to be fair, something even deeper softens inside you. You begin to realize that not only is life beyond your control, but that it's been carrying you all along, even when you were too busy fighting the current to notice. And in that realization comes one of the most surprising freedoms of all, the understanding that you don't have to fix everything before you allow yourself to rest. There is a deep exhaustion that creeps in when you believe everything depends on you. There is a different kind of peace that rises when you realize the river moves with or without your constant effort. There is a silent burden so many people carry, a weight that grows heavier with every problem they think they must solve before they can finally breathe. Every unfinished task, every unresolved feeling, every loose thread, it builds a wall around their ability to rest. There's this hidden belief that says, once I fix this, once I solve that, once I put everything in perfect order, then I'll deserve to relax, then I'll be allowed to rest. But the river of life doesn't stop moving just because you are tired. It doesn't freeze and wait for you to catch up. It doesn't hand you a checklist and promise that peace will come after everything is crossed off. Life keeps flowing with or without your permission. The current doesn't ask if you're ready. It just moves. And that is not a punishment. It's a mercy. Because it means you don't have to carry the whole world on your shoulders to be worthy of a break. It means you don't have to hold the sky up with your bare hands to be allowed to sit down. It means that your right to rest isn't something you have to earn through endless fixing and controlling. It is something that was given to you simply because you exist. There will always be one more thing to do, There will always be one more situation you could tangle yourself into trying to fix. There will always be people who want more from you, tasks that call your name, problems that glare at you from the edges of your peace. If you wait for everything to be finished, you will wait forever. If you wait until the river is calm to rest, you will never put your oars down. And the tragedy is that the beauty of life, the real beauty, was never waiting at the end of that exhausting race. It was always right here, inside the willingness to rest, even when the world feels unfinished. You are not responsible for solving every problem before you are allowed to sleep. You are not required to fix the world's pain before you are allowed to laugh. You are not obligated to carry every burden alone before you are allowed to feel light. The river moves anyway. Life breathes anyway. Growth happens anyway. Healing rises anyway. Even when you step back, even when you lay down, even when you close your eyes and trust the world to spin without your constant supervision. It takes a different kind of courage to rest before the work is done. It takes a kind of trust that few people talk about. Trust that things can unfold without your desperate control. Trust that not every loose thread needs to be pulled at once. Trust that sometimes the very act of stepping away allows the solution to find its way without you forcing it. The river does not need you to push it forward. The sun does not need you to remind it to rise. The seasons do not need your permission to turn. Life has a wisdom older than your worries, deeper than your plans, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to step back, open your hands, and let that wisdom move through your life without you standing in its way. There is a difference between action born from fear and action born from trust. Fear-driven action screams that if you stop even for a second, everything will collapse. Fear-driven action feeds the illusion that you are the only thing holding your life together. But trust-driven action knows that you are a participant in life, not the puppet master of it. Trust-driven action allows you to work from a place of flow, not panic. Trust-driven action allows you to act when needed and to rest when needed without guilt. You are allowed to lay your burdens down before they are fully solved. You are allowed to put the phone away, to close the laptop, to step outside and feel the wind on your face, even while the world remains imperfect. You are allowed to smile while questions remain unanswered. You are allowed to be happy even with a messy to-do list and unresolved conversations. You are allowed to sleep deeply even when some chapters are still open, even when some people are still hurting, even when some dreams are still halfway built. Rest is not something you earn. Rest is something you are built for. Just like the earth sleeps in winter, just like the tides ebb and flow, just like every beating heart pauses between beats. Without rest, there is no life. Without stepping back, there is no real moving forward. Constant struggle is not strength. Constant exhaustion is not virtue. The soul, like the body, needs space to breathe. There is a false heroism that glorifies the person who never stops, who never breaks, who fixes everything for everyone else while silently falling apart inside. But true strength looks different. True strength knows when to row and when to float. True strength knows when to carry and when to set things down. True strength knows that allowing life to move without your constant pressure is not weakness. It is wisdom. The river moves anyway. The deadlines will come and go. The bills will need paying. The conversations will happen or they won't. The healing will take time, whether you force it or not. The relationships will grow or end or change according to their own mysterious timing. You can do your part, yes. You can show up with your whole heart, yes. But you cannot control every current. You cannot predict every storm. You cannot hold every person, every plan, every hope in your hands without breaking yourself apart. And you don't have to. You never did. The trees outside are growing right now without anyone managing their process. The rivers are carving valleys without anyone giving them a map. Life is wise enough to continue without your micromanagement, and you are wise enough to trust it. There is a deeper way of living that begins when you stop fighting to fix it all before you rest. A gentler way, a freer way, a way that says, I will do what I can, but I will not sacrifice my soul to the illusion of control. I will love deeply. I will act with integrity. I will give my best when I can. But I will not spend my one precious life trapped in the prison of thinking it all depends on me. The people you love will have their own paths to walk, their own mistakes to make, their own lessons to learn. The problems you face will sometimes untangle themselves in ways your mind could never have predicted. The world will spin forward even on the days when you need to sit still and catch your breath. You were never meant to be the river's engine. You were meant to be its traveler. Tonight, as you close your eyes, let yourself feel the weight you've been carrying, not with judgment, not with guilt. Just feel it. Then, softly, let it down. You don't have to fix it all tonight. You don't have to solve every problem to be worthy of peace. You don't have to fight the current to prove you are strong. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to float. You are allowed to be carried. The river moves anyway. Life moves anyway. Love moves anyway. Growth moves anyway. You can trust it. You can trust yourself. And you can rest, knowing that the flow of life will never abandon you. Even when you stop paddling for a while and simply let yourself drift toward tomorrow. And once you begin to trust the river to carry you, even when you lay down your oars, something even more profound starts to rise inside you. You realize that true peace isn't just found in resting through ease. It's found in staying open through discomfort too. And the way you meet what feels unbearable becomes the way you find a freedom deeper than any surface calm could offer. There is a kind of strength that isn't loud, isn't aggressive, and doesn't need to win. It's the quiet strength of staying present with what hurts without letting it turn you into something you're not. There is a misunderstanding that runs deep inside most hearts. A quiet voice that says, if you accept something, it means you approve of it. That if you stop fighting reality, you are giving up, betraying yourself, condoning what should never have happened. But real acceptance is not agreement. Real acceptance is not surrendering your values, not abandoning your sense of right and wrong. It is something much stronger. It is standing firmly inside yourself while also refusing to waste your life fighting a reality that already exists. It is seeing clearly what is happening without adding extra layers of denial, rage, or despair. It is holding space for what is so that you can move from clarity instead of chaos. There is no wisdom in pretending that everything is okay when it's not. There is no peace in lying to yourself that pain is beautiful when it cuts deep. Acceptance doesn't mean closing your eyes to what hurts. It means keeping your eyes wide open, softening your resistance to the fact that hurt is happening, and choosing to stay fully present anyway. It means breathing with what is real instead of tensing against it, breathing with the pain without needing it to vanish before you can take the next step. Most of the suffering people carry is not from the pain itself, but from the war they wage against the pain. The endless internal struggle, the mental screaming that says, "This shouldn't be happening," the desperate grasping for escape, for rewinding time, for changing what has already come to pass. That struggle layers more agony on top of what was already heavy enough. It traps you in the very thing you wish you could move through. But there is another way. A way of breathing instead of bracing. A way of meeting pain like a teacher instead of an enemy. A way of holding even the unbearable with a kind of dignity that no one can take from you. Breathing through discomfort doesn't mean liking the discomfort. It doesn't mean staying passive or accepting abuse or injustice. It means refusing to abandon yourself while pain is present. It means refusing to turn away from your own heart. It means staying rooted in the truth of your experience without letting it harden you into something small, bitter, or broken. You can say, "This hurts," without saying, "I am destroyed." You can say, "This is wrong," without being consumed by hatred. You can say, "I wish it were different," without being paralyzed by despair. You can breathe through the discomfort instead of letting it suffocate your spirit. Breath is the bridge between the mind and the body. Breath is the thread that keeps you tied to the present moment when everything inside you wants to flee. When anger rises, when grief crushes your chest, when fear scrambles your thoughts, the breath is always there, waiting to hold you steady. Not to erase the pain, not to numb it, but to create a space wide enough for you to survive it without losing yourself. Every time you breathe with discomfort instead of against it, you teach your nervous system that you are safe, even when life feels unsafe. You teach your mind that you are resilient, even when things are hard. You teach your heart that you can stay open, even when it aches. Over time, that practice builds an inner strength no amount of external control could ever match. Acceptance without agreement is the foundation for wise action. It allows you to see clearly what is wrong without being blinded by the need for immediate relief. It allows you to respond with intention instead of reaction. It allows you to choose when and how to act, instead of being pulled around by anger, fear, or grief like a leaf in a storm. If you cannot accept that something is happening, you cannot respond to it skillfully. You cannot change what you refuse to see clearly. Acceptance is not passivity. It is the gateway to powerful, compassionate, clear-eyed action. When you breathe through discomfort, you reclaim your right to choose. You step out of the automatic loops of panic and defense. You create space inside your own body where wisdom can rise, where patience can breathe, where strength can stretch out and find its footing. There is a deep maturity that grows when you practice breathing with life exactly as it shows up. It is the maturity of someone who no longer needs the world to be painless in order to stay kind. It is the maturity of someone who can stand in the middle of sorrow and still offer love. It is the maturity of someone who can hold grief in one hand and hope in the other without needing either to disappear. Breathing through discomfort does not make the pain smaller. It makes your heart bigger It does not erase injustice or loss or cruelty, but it makes you powerful enough to meet them without losing your humanity. The world needs more people who can breathe through discomfort instead of escalating it, who can feel fear without spreading fear, who can feel anger without unleashing destruction, who can feel sorrow without drowning in it, who can stay present, soft, open, even when every instinct screams to shut down, run away, strike out. This is the deep strength Buddhist teachings point to, not the kind of strength that crushes what hurts, but the kind that holds it tenderly without being broken by it. Life will never stop bringing moments of discomfort. People will hurt you. Dreams will slip away. Injustice will cut across your life like sudden storms. There will be times when you want to scream at the sky, when you want to claw your way out of reality. But the breath will always be there, quiet, unchanging, loyal. You can come back to it whenever the world feels too much. You can breathe through the tightness, through the burning, through the ache, and find that underneath the pain, there is still a ground that holds you. There is still a part of you that cannot be destroyed by discomfort. There is still a place inside that remains untouched, unshaken, free. Acceptance without agreement is about honoring the truth of the moment without giving it ultimate power over your soul. It is about being honest with your pain without letting it be the end of your story. It is about saying, "This is happening," without saying, "This is who I am forever." Tonight, let yourself breathe with whatever discomfort is here. Let yourself feel the tightness without judging it. Let yourself feel the ache without rushing to fix it. Let yourself trust that you are big enough, strong enough, soft enough, wise enough to hold it all without breaking. You don't have to like the discomfort. You don't have to celebrate the loss. You don't have to agree with the cruelty or the injustice or the grief. But you can breathe through it. You can survive it. You can transform it. And maybe as you lay here, breathing softly into the spaces that hurt, you will feel a deeper kind of peace start to rise. Not the peace that comes from everything being okay, but the peace that comes from knowing that even when it isn't, you are. And once you learn to breathe with what hurts without losing yourself, something even deeper begins to reveal itself. It's the quiet realization that much of the pain you carry isn't just from what happened. It's from what you told yourself should have happened instead. And letting go of that invisible script might be the most powerful release of all. There is a kind of freedom that only comes when you stop arguing with life, when you stop telling the world how it should be, and start meeting it exactly as it shows up. There is a silent war that so many people are trapped inside, a war not with the world itself, but with the ideas they built about how the world was supposed to be. Every disappointment, every frustration, every heartbreak grows bigger when measured against the invisible backdrop of what should have happened. He should have stayed. That opportunity should have been mine. Life should have been easier. They should have understood. I should have been stronger. The mind whispers these shoulds like laws carved into stone, like promises that life betrayed, and each one cuts deeper, not because reality itself is unbearable, but because reality is being compared to a fantasy that never existed outside the mind. The truth is that reality never agreed to follow your script. It never signed the contract you quietly wrote and tucked away in your heart. Life was never obligated to unfold according to your hopes, no matter how pure they were. People were never bound to meet your expectations, no matter how reasonable they seemed. Circumstances were never duty-bound to fit your plans, no matter how carefully you made them. Life moves by its own mysterious rhythm, and the more you insist it should move differently, the more exhausted you become. There is a hidden violence in every should. It slices the present moment into two pieces: what it is and what it was supposed to be, and demands that you live in the gap between them. But no one can thrive inside that gap. It is a place of constant tension, constant friction, constant disappointment. It is a place where no peace can grow, because peace can only grow where reality is allowed to be what it is, not what your mind says it must be. Every should drains your energy. Every should ties you tighter to frustration, bitterness, helplessness. And the worst part is that most of these shoulds were inherited. They were whispered into you by tired voices, by wounded ancestors, by fearful teachers, by a society desperate to control what cannot be controlled. You didn't create the shoulds you suffer under, but you can choose to lay them down. Living without should doesn't mean becoming passive. It doesn't mean giving up your dreams, your goals, your values. It means dropping the demand that life owes you anything just because you desire it. It means learning to move with life, not against it. It means acting from love and courage, not from resentment and entitlement. It means choosing your direction without screaming at the wind for blowing the wrong way. When you let go of should, you create space. Space inside your own mind where life can breathe. Space inside your own heart where possibility can grow. Space inside your own body where tension can loosen its grip. Without the constant friction of arguing with reality, you find a surprising lightness. The same life that felt unbearable under the weight of should suddenly feels more open, more alive, more full of paths you couldn't see before. The mind will try to convince you that if you let go of should, you are surrendering your power. But the opposite is true. When you let go of should, you reclaim your real power. The power to meet life as it is and move from there. The power to respond instead of react. The power to love what is real instead of chasing what was never promised. You can mourn what didn't happen without chaining yourself to it. You can grieve the gap between hope and reality without living your whole life inside that wound. Grief is clean and healing when you let it flow without should. It becomes poisonous when should traps it in endless loops of resentment. Letting go of should is not a one-time decision. It is a practice, a way of walking through the world with open hands instead of clenched fists. It is the daily work of noticing when the mind says, "This should be different," and gently answering, "It isn't, and that's okay." It is the gentle art of releasing yourself from the role of judge and jury over life itself. There is a simplicity that grows when you drop the need for life to obey you, a clarity, a humility. You start to see the world not as something malfunctioning, but as something unfolding, not as something broken, but as something in motion, not as something that owes you an apology, but as something that invites you to dance, even when the music isn't what you expected. When you stop arguing with life, you can finally start living it, fully, fiercely. tenderly. When you stop measuring every moment against an invisible standard, you can start feeling the miracle of the moment itself. Even the hard moments, even the messy ones, even the moments you would have sworn should never have happened. Life without should is not about being indifferent. It's about being free. Free to love without conditions. Free to hope without attachment. Free to work for change without chaining your happiness to the outcome. Free to move forward without dragging the weight of 1,000 unmet expectations behind you. There will still be things that hurt. There will still be things that are unjust, cruel, heartbreaking. But when you meet them without the extra layer of should, you can respond with clear eyes and a steady heart. You can fight for justice without hating life itself. You can heal from betrayal without needing the past to rewrite itself. You can cry, you can rage, you can rebuild, not because life obeyed your script, but because you are strong enough to live with an open heart in a world that doesn't owe you anything. The mind will resist this at first. It will cling to its old habits, whispering, "But it shouldn't have happened this way. But they shouldn't have treated me like that. But it shouldn't be this hard." It will tell you that letting go means giving up. But letting go does not mean giving up. It means choosing reality over illusion. It means choosing your real life, messy and glorious and alive, over a fantasy that was never going to protect you. And in that choice, you find a power deeper than control. You find a peace deeper than approval. You find a joy that doesn't need everything to line up perfectly in order to bloom. Tonight, as you rest, notice the shoulds rising quietly in your mind. Notice how heavy they feel. Notice how sharp, how tight, how small they make your world. And then, gently, kindly, let them go. Let the world be as it is, and let yourself be as you are, without judgment, without conditions, without needing everything to make perfect sense. Let the river of life flow without your demands. Let the sky stretch out without your rules. Let your heart beat in your chest without needing the universe to explain why. You were never meant to control the current. You were meant to move with it. You were never meant to rewrite the script. You were meant to live the story, raw and beautiful and unfinished. You are free. Free to breathe, free to love, free to live without should. And maybe, as you drift into sleep, you will feel the first breath of that freedom. Not because everything is finally as it should be, but because you no longer need it to be. And once you let go of the heavy chains of how life should be, something even deeper begins to loosen inside you. You start to realize it's not only your expectations of life that have trapped you, but the story you've been telling yourself about who you are. And when that story softens, a freedom even greater than peace begins to open its hands to you. There is a hidden weight that almost no one sees, but everyone carries. The pressure to always be someone, to always know exactly who you are, to defend that identity at all costs. But what if the strongest part of you was never the fixed image you protect, but the quiet, open space underneath it? For so long, you were taught to believe that you must be someone, that you must have a name not just on paper, but in spirit, a label, a role, a definition so solid that no storm could wash it away. You learned to say, "I am this," and "I am not that," carving yourself into a shape and clinging to it like a life raft in the rushing river of existence. But every identity you cling to eventually becomes too small. Every role you wrap around yourself eventually begins to suffocate the parts of you that were never meant to be contained. And the more tightly you hold on to who you think you are, the more violently you resist the parts of life that don't fit that story. You were not born with a name, a job title, a belief system, a reputation to maintain. You were born as awareness, wide open and free, breathing and moving without needing to explain itself. But as the world pressed its fingerprints onto you, you began to gather layers. Some were given with love. Some were carved into you by fear. Some you picked up because it was safer to belong than to stand alone. Slowly, the open field of your being was fenced in by the need to be someone. When life brings experiences that don't match the identity you have built, it feels like an attack. If you believe you are strong, then moments of weakness become unbearable. If you believe you are kind, then moments of anger shatter your self-image. If you believe you are successful, then failures cut deeper than the event itself. It isn't the experience that hurts the most. It's the way it clashes with the story you thought you had to keep alive. Clinging to identity is a silent war against reality. It is a desperate editing of life, a constant reshaping of the truth to protect the version of yourself you are afraid to lose. But identity is not solid. It never was. It shifts like sand. It bends with time. It grows and dissolves and reforms 1,000 times before you even reach middle age. Every cell in your body renews itself. Every thought you hold today is slightly different from the thoughts you held yesterday. The person you were a year ago would hardly recognize the dreams you hold now. When you cling to a fixed identity, you deny yourself the right to evolve. You trap yourself inside old definitions, old expectations, old prisons. You spend your energy defending who you were instead of allowing yourself to become who you are. Acceptance cannot fully bloom while you are gripping an identity with white-knuckled fear. Because life will always challenge who you think you are. Life will ask you to expand, to soften, to surrender your image of yourself so that something deeper can live through you. And if you resist that invitation, you resist life itself. The Buddhist teachings speak of the illusion of the separate self, the idea that you are a fixed, permanent, independent entity. But when you look closely, you see that nothing inside you is truly fixed. Thoughts arise and pass away. Emotions rise and fall like waves. Bodies age, change, dissolve. Roles come and go. Names are given and forgotten. And underneath all of it, awareness remains, silent, open, untouched. The fear of letting go of identity comes from the belief that if you are not something solid, you are nothing at all. But the opposite is true. When you release the need to be a rigid someone, you become available to the whole sky of existence. You are no longer trapped inside one tiny room of possibility. You are free to flow with life, to meet each moment not with a rehearsed performance, but with real, living presence. When sadness comes, you are not a sad person. You are sadness passing through. When strength rises, you are not a strong person. You are strength moving through form. When confusion clouds your mind, you are not a confused person. You are consciousness experiencing fog for a while. You are not the weather. You are the sky holding the weather. You are not the mask. You are the vastness underneath it. There is a softness that grows when you stop defending your identity, a kindness, a lightness. You no longer have to prove yourself in every conversation. You no longer have to force life to mirror back the image you are desperate to protect. You no longer have to fear mistakes or change or loss. You realize that none of it can touch the essence of what you are. Clinging to identity creates endless suffering because life refuses to play by your script. It refuses to stay inside the boxes you build for it. And every time life shatters your expectations, you are left bleeding from wounds you didn't have to open. But when you let the walls of your identity dissolve, you meet life with a flexible, open heart. You can say yes to moments that would have terrified the old self. You can allow yourself to grieve, to rejoice, to begin again without shame. You can move through the endless changes of existence with grace instead of fear. You are allowed to outgrow yourself. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to be different tomorrow than you were yesterday. You are allowed to live a life that surprises even you. You are allowed to be a mystery even to yourself. The old identities will try to pull you back. The mind will try to say, "But who are you without this role, without this title, without this certainty?" And the answer, whispered from the quiet center of your being, will be, "I am here. I am this moment. I am enough, even without a name." Tonight, as you rest, feel the places where you are gripping tightly to a story about who you are supposed to be. Feel the exhaustion of holding up that heavy mask. Feel the tightness of trying to match life to an image that no longer fits. And then, gently, tenderly, let it go. Let yourself be a river, not a statue. Let yourself be an unfolding, not a fixed monument. You are more beautiful than any label could ever capture. You are more vast than any definition could ever contain. You are life itself, breathing, changing, moving, rising, falling, free. And maybe, as you drift into sleep, you will feel the first breath of that freedom. Not because you figured out who you are once and for all, but because you no longer need to. And once you loosen your grip on the idea of a fixed self, something even subtler begins to come into focus. You start to notice that it isn't only who you think you are that traps you, but also where you believe you must someday arrive. And the harder you cling to those shining visions of the future, the more you lose the freedom that was meant to be yours, right here, right now. There's a tenderness that lives in dreaming, but there's also a hidden trap when you hold those dreams so tightly that they stop you from living. Sometimes, even the sweetest hope can quietly become a cage. Hope can be a beautiful thing. It can lift your heart when the world feels heavy. It can pull you forward when the road disappears into mist. It can whisper to you that there is something worth walking toward, even when your legs are tired. Hope, when held gently, is like a soft light that brightens your steps without blinding you. But hope, when clutched too tightly, when gripped like the only thing that makes life worth living, becomes a prison of your own making. It's a strange thing that no one warns you about, that even the dreams that seem pure can harden into suffering when you hold them with desperation. It happens quietly. You set a beautiful vision in your mind, a love, a career, a healing, a future version of yourself. And without noticing, you begin to measure every breath, every choice, every moment against that vision. You start to live not here, but there, not now, but then, and slowly the present begins to shrink into something you endure rather than inhabit. Life becomes a waiting room instead of a living thing. The mind loves the future. It loves the neatness of someday. It loves the idea that there is a place where everything will finally make sense, where all the brokenness will be repaired, where every need will be met perfectly. But the future is smoke. The future is a painting you can never quite step into. No matter how hard you reach, no matter how vivid your dreams, life will always meet you here, in this imperfect breath, on this imperfect day. Hope becomes a cage when it convinces you that you cannot be at peace until you arrive somewhere else. Hope becomes a trap when it whispers that you are not enough yet, not ready yet, not whole yet. But you will be, if only, if someday, if eventually. It keeps your heart dangling just out of reach of your own life. It tricks you into believing that happiness is always one step beyond where you stand. But life is never happening later. Life is never waiting for you around the corner. Life is pouring itself into you now, through this moment, through this feeling, through this breath. And if you are too busy chasing tomorrow, you will miss the only place where your real life exists, here. Holding your dreams lightly doesn't mean giving up on them. It doesn't mean killing your hope or abandoning your longings. It means loving them without chaining yourself to them. It means letting your visions inspire you without letting them become the measure of your worth. It means walking toward them with open hands, knowing that the path may change, the dream may change, and you will still be whole even if the destination shifts or disappears. There is a deep kind of acceptance that rises when you stop making your peace conditional on things unfolding the way you hope. It is an acceptance that frees you to love the journey itself, not just the arrival. It frees you to dance with life even when the music changes. It frees you to say yes to what is real instead of saying no to everything that isn't your perfect future. Sometimes the dreams that you think will save you are too small for the life you are meant to live. Sometimes the hopes that seem so precious are only stepping stones to a future you can't even imagine yet. If you grip them too tightly, you miss the unexpected gifts life is trying to give you. If you chain yourself to the vision you made when you were younger, you lock yourself out of the door that has just now swung open. Life is wiser than your plans. Life is bigger than your dreams. Life is more creative than your imagination. But you have to be willing to meet it with open hands. You have to be willing to let go of the fantasy you built in order to hold the miracle that is being offered instead. There is nothing wrong with dreaming. Dreams are part of the soul's way of stretching toward its own light. But when you make your dream your jailer, when you tell yourself you cannot be happy until you reach it, you are rejecting your own freedom. You are trading the wildness of life for a narrow hallway that leads only to waiting, longing, endless dissatisfaction. When you cling to hope too tightly, even joy starts to feel dangerous. You fear that relaxing now will make you lose your grip. You fear that resting now will mean you've given up. You fear that celebrating small moments will somehow betray the bigger dream you are holding. But life was never asking you to choose between dreaming and living. Life was asking you to hold both, hope and presence, longing and gratitude, vision and acceptance, all at once, in the same tender hands. You are not betraying your future by loving the life you have now. You are not giving up on your dreams by finding joy in the messy, unfinished middle. You are not abandoning your hopes by breathing fully into this imperfect, glorious moment. There is a rhythm to life that your mind will never understand, but your heart knows by feel. It moves in spirals, in sudden bursts, in unexpected seasons. It does not move according to your plans. It does not unfold like a staircase you can climb neatly. It unfurls like a wildflower growing in the cracks, surprising you, humbling you, delighting you when you least expect it. Tonight, as you rest, feel the dreams you have been clenching. Feel the weight of them pressing against your heart. Feel the exhaustion of holding them so tightly that your hands have forgotten how to open. And then, gently, kindly, let them loosen, let them breathe, let them dance freely in the wide space of your being. You are allowed to dream without suffering. You are allowed to hope without trapping yourself in the future. You are allowed to live fully now, even as you walk toward what calls you forward. Maybe you will still reach the dreams you hold. Maybe you will outgrow them. Maybe life will hand you something even more beautiful than you dared to imagine. But either way, your happiness does not have to be postponed until some distant someday. It can rise now, in this moment, in this breath, in this life you are already living. The doors you thought would save you are not the only doors. The paths you thought you had to walk are not the only paths. The dreams you thought you had to achieve are not the only way your soul can unfold. Trust the river. Trust the wind. Trust the life that moves through you, even when it carries you somewhere unexpected. And maybe, as you fall asleep tonight, you will feel the sweet, aching beauty of holding your dreams lightly, not as cages, but as songs carried on the breeze, free to rise, free to fall, free to change, free to live. And once you loosen your grip on the future and allow your dreams to breathe freely, something even deeper begins to surface. You realize it's not only your visions of tomorrow that can trap you, but also the waves of emotion that move through you today. Learning to meet these waves without drowning in them becomes the next opening into a life of real freedom. There is a storm that rises inside all of us sometimes, sudden and fierce, but the true harm does not come from the storm itself. It comes from believing the storm is forever. There are days when the sky inside you darkens without warning, when emotions rush in like wild winds, tearing through the calm you thought would last. Fear, sadness, anger, grief, loneliness, confusion, they crash against your mind, and it feels like you will be swept away. It feels like you will be broken by their force. It feels like you must fight them or surrender helplessly to them. But there is another way, a quieter way, a wiser way, a way that sees emotions not as invaders or punishments, but as passing storms, powerful yet temporary, fierce but not eternal. From the moment you were small, you were taught to fear certain feelings. You were taught to push away sadness, to deny fear, to cover up anger, to smile even when the inside of you was breaking. You learned that emotions were problems to be solved, battles to be won, enemies to be conquered. But emotions are not enemies. Emotions are visitors. They are messengers. They are waves moving through the vast ocean of your being. And like all waves, they rise, they crest, they fall away. The suffering comes not from the emotions themselves, but from your resistance to them, from the stories you build around them, from the panic that says, "This feeling will never end," from the judgment that says, "This feeling means something is wrong with me." But the truth is softer, kinder, more generous. The truth is that emotions are natural movements of energy. They come because you are alive. They move because you are connected to life. They pass because that is their nature. Fear will rise. Let it rise. Sadness will pour through you. Let it pour. Anger will flash like lightning across your chest. Let it flash. You do not have to chase these feelings away. You do not have to trap them or fight them or explain them perfectly. You can simply breathe and allow them to move through you like weather, trusting that no storm lasts forever. There is a deep wisdom that grows when you stop asking yourself, "How do I get rid of this feeling?" and start asking, "How can I stay open while this feeling moves through me?" There is a strength that blossoms when you learn that you can stand in the rain without melting, that you can feel fear without collapsing, that you can cry without losing your ground. Emotions are not solid walls. They are currents. They are skies shifting from grey to blue to gold. They are winds that come and go. And underneath them, always, there is a deeper sky that remains untouched. That deeper sky is you. It is the awareness that feels the sadness but is not broken by it. It is the presence that notices the anger but does not become violence. It is the stillness that holds grief without letting it harden your heart. You do not need to believe every story your emotions tell you. Fear will whisper that you are not safe, even when you are. Sadness will tell you that you are alone, even when love surrounds you. Anger will scream that everything must be destroyed, even when patience is the better path. You can feel these emotions fully without building your life around their temporary urgency. When the storm rises inside you, the most powerful thing you can do is breathe. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel the weight of your own body anchored to the earth. Let the feeling surge and crest and fall without forcing it to leave and without clinging to it in fear. Trust that your heart is big enough to hold even this. Trust that your breath is strong enough to steady you through even this. There will be moments when the feelings seem too big, too sharp, too much. There will be moments when you want to run, to hide, to numb, to shout. And you can forgive yourself for those instincts. They are human. They are part of the ancient dance of survival. But you are no longer a helpless child. You are no longer powerless against your own storms. You have breath. You have awareness. You have the ability to stay rooted even as the winds howl through your soul. And staying does not mean drowning. It does not mean wallowing endlessly in sadness or marinating in rage. It means letting the feeling have its natural lifespan without forcing it shorter or longer. It means allowing the rain to fall without standing in the flood longer than necessary. It means welcoming the emotion as a temporary guest, offering it a seat, but not building it a permanent room. Some emotions will stay longer than others. Grief may sit by your side for seasons. Fear may tap at your window during long nights. Anger may burn like coals beneath your ribs. But even these will move if you do not chain yourself to them. Even these will soften if you do not build your identity around them. You are allowed to feel fully without becoming what you feel. You are allowed to cry without becoming sorrow. You are allowed to rage without becoming destruction. You are allowed to tremble without becoming weakness. You are the sky, not the storm. Tonight, as you rest, feel whatever is moving through you, not with judgment, not with panic, not with a rush to fix or change. Just notice. Breathe with it. Let it rise if it needs to. Let it fall when it is ready. Trust that your heart is wide enough for all of it. Trust that no feeling is final. Maybe sadness visits tonight. Maybe anxiety buzzes at the edges of your mind. Maybe anger simmers quietly. It's okay. You are not broken because you feel. You are not failing because you hurt. You are simply human, living through the beautiful, painful, raw experience of being alive. And maybe, as the night deepens, you will feel the first threads of a deeper peace. Not because the storms stopped, not because you forced yourself to feel better, but because you remembered that you are bigger than the weather inside you, because you remembered that feelings come and go, but you remain quiet, strong, open, free. And when you wake up tomorrow, the sky inside you may still be shifting. Clouds may still drift across your morning, but you will know deep in your bones that you are not at the mercy of your emotions. You are the ocean that holds the waves. You are the sky that holds the storms. You are the life that breathes through it all, unstoppable, unbreakable, alive. And once you remember that emotions, like storms, pass through without defining who you are, something even more profound begins to appear. You realize that it is not just emotions that move and change, but life itself, that everything you love, everything you are, is touched by the hands of time. And learning to love what will not last becomes the heart of true peace. There is a sweetness so deep it almost breaks the heart when you finally allow yourself to love, not because things will stay, but because you know they won't. Life is made of moments that slip through your fingers even as you hold them. Every face you love will change. Every body will grow older. Every friendship will be touched by distance. Every relationship by time. Every dream by the shifting winds of life's unpredictable journey. There is nothing you can cling to tightly enough to stop it from changing. And yet, the beauty is not lost because it ends. It is made even richer because it does. There is a part of you that wants to resist this, a part that wishes to freeze time, to capture laughter in a bottle, to hold the people you love in a place where nothing can touch them, where nothing can take them away. But life doesn't work that way. Life breathes, life moves, life ripens and withers and blooms again, not in a perfect circle, but in a wild dance that never repeats exactly the same steps. The deeper sorrow is not in the changes themselves, it is in the refusal to accept them. The deeper pain is not in the loss, but in the clenching against it, the frantic grasping that says, stay, 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 even as everything living must go. When you begin to understand that loss is not a punishment but part of the nature of life, you start to hold things differently. You start to love more fiercely and more gently all at once. You start to cherish the sound of a friend's laughter, knowing you will not hear it forever. You start to treasure the warmth of your own body, not because it will last forever, but because it won't. You start to see wrinkles not as enemies, but as sacred lines drawn by the rivers of time. You start to find beauty not despite mortality, but because of it. There is a wisdom that grows when you allow yourself to bow before the truth that everything you love will change. It is not a bitter wisdom. It is not a defeated wisdom. It is a tender, open, shining kind of wisdom that says, because this will not last, I will love it even more while it is here. Aging is not a failure. Aging is not a mistake. Aging is life fulfilling its promise to keep moving. Every line on your face, every ache in your bones, every change in your reflection is a love letter from life itself, reminding you that you are part of something larger, something eternal in its movement, even if every form is temporary. Loving what is mortal asks you to slow down. It asks you to notice the way light falls across a room, the way a hand feels in yours, the way laughter bubbles up and disappears into silence. It asks you to see, really see, the people around you, not as fixtures in your life, but as living, breathing, changing beings who will one day be only memories. It asks you to live in such a way that when you look back, you will not have to say, I was too busy chasing something else to notice what I had. Loss will come. Change will come. This is not cruelty. This is the nature of being alive. Every ending is woven into every beginning. Every goodbye is hidden inside every hello. Every birth already carries the whisper of its eventual death. And still, it is all worth it. Still, it is all achingly, breathtakingly beautiful. The trees let go of their leaves every autumn, not because they have failed, but because it is time. The rivers do not mourn the water that flows out to sea. The sun does not grieve the setting of its own light each evening. In nature, there is no clinging. There is no demand that things stay as they are. There is only the endless bowing to change, the endless trust in the beauty of every phase, every stage, every season. You too are part of this. You too are meant to live, to love, to lose, to change. And the more you resist, the more you suffer. The more you open, the more you find that even in the letting go, there is joy. Even in the endings, there is wonder. Even in the empty spaces left behind, there is room for something new to grow. You are allowed to grieve what changes. You are allowed to mourn what is lost. But you are also allowed to celebrate it, to see it, to bless it, to say, thank you for existing, even as it slips from your hands. Loving what is mortal means choosing to be broken-hearted sometimes. It means choosing to live wide open even when you know it will hurt. It means choosing to give your heart to things you cannot keep. And in doing so, you find a depth of love you could never reach if you demanded guarantees. The people you love will change. You will change. Life will move and flow and carry you places you cannot yet see. And it is all okay. It is all part of the dance. It is all part of the song. Tonight, as you rest, let yourself feel the bittersweet beauty of loving what will not last. Let yourself feel the ache and the gratitude woven together. Let yourself hold your own precious life gently, knowing that every breath is a gift that will not come again in quite the same way. You do not have to harden your heart to survive change. You do not have to close your eyes to avoid sorrow. You can stay open, you can stay soft, you can stay human. Maybe the greatest act of courage is not protecting yourself from loss, but allowing yourself to love anyway. Maybe the deepest wisdom is not in avoiding change, but in embracing it. Maybe the richest joy is not in trying to make life permanent, but in loving its wild, fleeting beauty with your whole heart. You are strong enough to love things that you cannot keep. You are wise enough to cherish moments you know will pass. You are brave enough to dance with life even when the music is always changing. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the quiet sweetness of this truth settling deep into your bones. Not because the world promised you forever, but because you chose to love it anyway. And once you learn to love life even in its passing, even in its endless changes, something even deeper begins to open inside you. You start to see that not only is everything changing, but that much of it is moving according to a rhythm you could never control, no matter how hard you tried. And it is in surrendering the illusion of control that a deeper wisdom finally has room to rise. There is a quiet strength that waits for those who dare to admit they are not steering the whole ship. Sometimes, only when you stop trying to control the waves can you finally feel the ocean carrying you somewhere better than you ever planned. From the earliest days of your life, you were taught that control was power, that the more tightly you gripped your plans, your dreams, your circumstances, the safer you would be. That the right combination of effort and strategy could guarantee a life free from pain, from surprise, from disappointment. But life doesn't play by those rules. No matter how carefully you build your walls, life finds ways to slip through the cracks. No matter how tightly you hold on, life shifts and turns in directions you never saw coming. At first, this feels like failure. At first, every plan that falls apart feels like a betrayal. At first, every unexpected loss feels like proof that you should have tried harder, been smarter, worked faster. But the truth waiting behind that exhaustion is something different, something gentler. The truth is that you were never meant to control it all. The truth is that your limits are not your weakness. They are your doorway to a deeper strength. There is a kind of intelligence that only awakens when you stop trying to force life to obey you. There is a kind of wisdom that only rises when you allow yourself to stand inside your own powerlessness without shame. It is not the intelligence of planning every move. It is not the wisdom of outsmarting every danger. It is the quiet, vast intelligence of life itself, moving through you, carrying you, guiding you, not with maps and guarantees, but with a deeper intuition that only speaks when you are willing to listen. When you drop the illusion of control, you create space inside your mind. Space for new possibilities you would have never seen while clinging to your old blueprints. Space for creativity to rise. Space for unexpected paths to appear. Space for solutions that are wiser than anything you could have forced into existence with sheer will. There is a false kind of strength that says, I must have the answer. I must fix this. I must make everything happen the way I want. That strength is brittle. That strength shatters easily. That strength exhausts you until you forget what it feels like to move through life with lightness. There is a true kind of strength that says, I will do my part, but I will not pretend I control the whole story. I will trust the movement of life itself. That strength bends without breaking. That strength listens. That strength dances with change instead of fighting it. You are not weak because you cannot control everything. You are wise because you can admit it. You are not failing because your plans fall apart. You are living, breathing, evolving because you allow yourself to move with what is real instead of being trapped in what was supposed to be. There is an intelligence that moves the seasons, that grows forests from tiny seeds, that turns caterpillars into butterflies without them needing to make a single plan. That same intelligence lives in you. But you cannot hear it when you are shouting orders at life. You cannot feel it when you are busy trying to wrestle every moment into shape. You must get quiet enough, soft enough, open enough to let it move through you. Sometimes the best thing you can do is stop. Stop forcing, stop fixing, stop demanding that life explain itself to you. Sit down inside your own unknowing and breathe. Feel the vastness around you. Feel the quiet hum of something bigger than your fear, bigger than your mind's endless spinning. Feel how, even when you don't know the next step, something inside you is still breathing, still moving, still alive. You were never meant to control the river. You were meant to learn how to trust its flow. You were meant to listen to the currents inside your own heart. You were meant to feel your way forward, one moment at a time, not because you have a guarantee of safety, but because you have a trust in life deeper than safety. There will be moments when you forget this, moments when fear grips you by the throat and demands that you tighten your fists again. Moments when you will scramble to fix, to solve, to control. That's okay. You are human. You are allowed to forget. But each time you do, each time the exhaustion creeps back in, you have the choice to return, to step back, to open your hands, to breathe. Powerlessness is not the end of your strength. It is the beginning of it. It is the place where your limited mind steps aside and your limitless spirit begins to speak. It is the place where you stop carrying the weight of the world alone and realize you are part of something vast enough to hold you. Trusting life does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean doing nothing. It means doing what you can from a place of openness instead of fear. It means acting without gripping. It means giving your best without making your happiness conditional on the outcome. It means walking forward with your heart open, knowing that you are part of something wiser than your plans. You are allowed to act. You are allowed to dream. You are allowed to build and create and love and hope. But you are also allowed to surrender what you cannot control. You are allowed to lay down the parts of the burden that were never yours to carry. Tonight, as you rest, feel the places inside you that are still trying to hold the whole sky up with your bare hands. Feel the exhaustion of trying to know everything, fix everything, predict everything. Feel how heavy it is to pretend you're in charge of it all. And then, gently, lovingly, set it down. Let yourself be carried for a while. Let yourself float on the river that has been flowing long before you were born and will continue long after you are gone. Trust that you do not have to see the whole map to take the next step. Trust that you do not have to force life to move in your timing to be exactly where you need to be. Maybe you will find that the deepest wisdom you were searching for was already waiting inside you, hidden beneath the noise of trying so hard to control. Maybe you will feel the first whispers of that higher intelligence stirring in your chest, guiding you not with rigid plans, but with quiet, steady knowing. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will breathe easier than you have in a long time. Not because everything is finally under control, but because you finally know you don't need it to be. And once you surrender the impossible burden of controlling life, something even quieter and more powerful begins to appear. You realize it isn't just the outside world that moves beyond your grasp, but your own reactions too. And within that realization comes a doorway, a soft, steady pause, where real freedom finally begins. There is a hidden moment most people miss, a breath of silence that lives right between what happens to you and how you respond. Inside that space, everything about your future can change. For most of your life, you have been taught that reactions are automatic. Someone says something cruel and anger flares before you can think. A disappointment crashes into you and bitterness spreads without your permission. A fear rises in your chest and your body tightens without warning. It feels like you are trapped inside these reactions, like you have no choice but to ride the wave wherever it throws you. But this is only because you have never been taught to find the space that always exists, the space between the world and your answer to it. It is a small space at first, almost invisible, a fraction of a second, a tiny breath. But inside that breath is everything. Inside that breath is the power to choose a different way. Not because you force yourself, not because you suppress what you feel, but because you remember that you are not just a bundle of automatic reactions. You are awareness itself. You are the one who can pause, who can breathe, who can watch the rising emotion without being enslaved by it. Acceptance is what makes this pause possible. When you refuse to accept what is happening, when you push against it in rage or panic or denial, you are caught immediately in reaction. There is no space, only struggle. But when you accept what is, not liking it, not approving it, but simply seeing it clearly, you step back from the storm. You create a clearing in the forest of your mind. You find the space where something new can be born. The world around you will not stop testing you. People will say careless things. Plans will fall apart. Fears will whisper at the edges of your dreams. If you wait for life to be free of triggers, you will wait forever. But if you learn to live in the pause, you stop being a puppet pulled by every string. You become something else entirely, someone who responds from freedom instead of reflex. At first, the pause will feel fragile. You will catch it sometimes and miss it other times. You will notice the anger rising and still speak too sharply. You will feel the sadness coming and still collapse into it. This is not failure. This is practice. This is learning to stretch the space wider, one breath at a time. The more you practice finding the pause, the more natural it becomes. The more you teach your nervous system that it is safe to slow down, to stay soft, even when the world feels hard. And in that slowness, you will find choices you never saw before. Instead of snapping back at a hurtful comment, you may choose to stay silent. Instead of spiraling into despair at a setback, you may choose to offer yourself kindness. Instead of reacting with fear, you may choose to move forward with gentle courage. The pause does not erase your emotions. It honors them. It lets you feel them without being drowned by them. It lets you experience them without letting them drive your every word, your every action, your every heartbeat. Emotions are not the enemy. They are weather passing through the sky of your mind. The pause is what lets you feel the rain without losing yourself in the flood. Every time you find the pause, you reconnect to your true self. Not the self that lashes out in fear, not the self that shrinks in shame, but the self that is wide enough to hold all experiences without being shattered by them. The self that can witness anger without becoming cruel. The self that can witness sadness without falling into despair. The self that can witness fear without being frozen. Acceptance creates the space. Space creates the pause. The pause creates freedom. Freedom creates new choices. New choices create a new life. And it does not have to happen perfectly. It does not have to happen every time. You do not have to become a monk overnight. Every small moment matters. Every time you catch yourself before the automatic reaction takes over, you are rewiring your whole way of being. You are planting seeds that will grow into strength beyond what you ever thought possible. Imagine the difference between a life lived in automatic reaction and a life lived in spacious response. In one life, you are pulled and pushed by every wave. In the other, you are standing calmly at the shore, letting the waves rise and fall without needing to drown in them. In one life, you are trapped in endless cycles of regret and reactivity. In the other, you are moving through the world with grace, with steadiness, with a kind of quiet power that cannot be taken from you. The pause is not about controlling your feelings. It is about holding them wisely. It is about letting them rise without letting them hijack your heart. It is about being bigger than the momentary surge. It is about trusting that you are strong enough to stay soft, even when everything inside you wants to harden. Tonight, as you rest, think of a moment recently when you reacted from pain, from fear, from anger. Not with judgment, not with shame, just notice. And then ask yourself, was there a space there, even the smallest one? Was there a breath where a different path could have begun? Feel how even the noticing is a form of freedom. Feel how even the awareness is the beginning of something new. You do not have to be perfect to live differently. You only have to be willing to see, willing to breathe, willing to choose. There will be days when the old reactions rise faster than your ability to catch them. There will be days when the storm inside feels too strong. That's okay. Forgive yourself. Begin again. Every breath is another chance. Every moment is another invitation. Acceptance is not weakness. It is the foundation of strength. Acceptance does not mean giving up on your dreams or your growth. It means rooting yourself in reality so that you can build something real. It means seeing what is without panic, without denial, without needing it to be different before you can live. Acceptance is what gives you the pause. The pause is what gives you your power back. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the first sweet threads of that power waking up inside you. Not because you forced it, not because you fought for it, but because you allowed it to rise gently, naturally, from the space you created, simply by being willing to pause, to breathe, to trust. And once you learn to find the pause before reaction, something even more subtle begins to unfold. You start to realize that life itself, in all its beauty and uncertainty, is built not on solid ground, but on a mysterious, ever-shifting dance. And true peace is not found in trying to lock everything into place, but in learning to stand calmly on ground that was never meant to stay still. There is a kind of strength that doesn't come from clinging harder, but from opening wider. Sometimes the confidence you are searching for is waiting for you on the other side of letting go of every guarantee you thought you needed. There is a deep craving inside most hearts to find something that will not move. Something that will stay fixed, certain, predictable. A relationship that will never change. A job that will always feel fulfilling. A plan that will unfold exactly as imagined. A future that feels locked into place, safe, guaranteed. The mind whispers that if you can just secure enough solid ground under your feet, you will finally be able to rest. You will finally be able to breathe. You will finally be able to live without fear. But life was never built on solid ground. Life is movement. Life is change. Life is groundlessness. You are standing in a river, not on a mountain. You are floating in a sky, not walking on a road carved out forever. Every part of your life, your relationships, your health, your dreams, your body, your future, is moving, shifting, changing, even when you cannot see it. And the attempt to cling to certainty, to demand solid guarantees from a world built on movement, is the root of a kind of quiet suffering that drains your spirit. Confidence is not built by finding something that never changes. It is built by learning to move with change. It is built by learning to trust yourself inside the groundlessness. It is built by learning to stay soft and open and awake, even when there are no promises, even when there are no maps, even when everything you thought you could count on begins to shift beneath you. There is a place inside you deeper than fear. A place that does not need to know what will happen next in order to stay steady. A place that can open to life without demanding that life explain itself first. That place is not found by securing guarantees. It is found by falling into trust. Not blind trust that everything will always be easy, but deep trust that whatever happens, you can meet it, you can survive it, you can flow with it. The mind will fight this. The mind will demand certainty like a drowning person demands air. The mind will try to build towers of plans, walls of strategies, moats of backup plans, trying to create islands of safety in a sea that was never meant to be conquered. But even the strongest walls eventually crumble. Even the best plans eventually crack open under the weight of time. Groundlessness is not something wrong. It is not something broken. It is not a flaw in the design of life. It is the nature of life itself. And when you stop resisting it, you find that it is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It is your path. Real courage is not found in pretending that everything will stay the same. Real courage is found in stepping forward without knowing. Real strength is found in opening your arms to a life that will never give you ironclad promises. Real peace is found not by making everything predictable, but by learning to breathe inside the unpredictable. There is a lightness that rises when you stop needing solid ground under every step. A kind of quiet joy. A kind of fierce tenderness. You start to see that life is beautiful not despite its uncertainty, but because of it. The sunrise is beautiful because it cannot be frozen. The laughter of a friend is precious because you cannot guarantee you will hear it forever. Your own heartbeat is a miracle precisely because you cannot hold it captive. When you accept groundlessness, you start to live differently. You stop clenching every moment. You stop hoarding every experience. You stop measuring every relationship by how long it will last or how tightly it can be held. You begin to meet life with open hands instead of closed fists. There will still be fear sometimes. Fear is part of groundlessness too. Fear rises when the mind cannot predict the next step. Fear rises when the old maps fall apart. That is okay. Fear does not have to be banished for trust to grow. You can hold fear gently. You can walk with fear without letting it drive your life. When fear rises, you can say to it, "I see you. You are trying to protect me, but I do not need to know everything to move forward. I do not need to control everything to be safe. I do not need to grip life tighter. I can trust what is bigger than my fear." You are not asked to love the uncertainty at every moment. You are asked to trust yourself within it, to trust that you are bigger than your fear, to trust that you are strong enough to move even when the path is not lit all the way to the horizon, to trust that sometimes the way only appears when you step into the unknown. The trees grow without knowing what storms will come. The rivers flow without knowing which rocks they will encounter. The birds migrate without maps, trusting some ancient pull deeper than their understanding. You too have that wisdom inside you. You too are part of that larger intelligence that moves without needing guarantees. Tonight, as you rest, feel the places inside you that are still clinging to the need for certainty. Feel the tension of trying to demand guarantees from a life that was never meant to be locked down. Feel the exhaustion of trying to plan so perfectly that no pain can ever touch you. And then, gently, tenderly, let it go. Let yourself rest in the groundlessness. Let yourself breathe inside the not knowing. Let yourself feel the strange, fierce, tender joy of being alive without a contract promising you how it will all turn out. Maybe you will find that the freedom you were searching for was not on the other side of securing your future, but on the other side of surrendering your demand that it be secured. Maybe you will feel the first stirring of a kind of confidence deeper than certainty. A confidence that says, "I don't know what will happen, and I don't need to. I am here. I am breathing. I am enough." And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the river of life carrying you forward, not because you forced it, not because you planned it perfectly, but because you finally let go and trusted it to move you where you were always meant to go. And once you learn to trust the open ground beneath your feet, something even more profound begins to appear. You start to realize that life is not about choosing between extremes, but about holding them together. That real peace isn't found by banishing sorrow, and real joy isn't found by escaping pain. It is found by letting both belong in the same open heart. There is a deeper strength that rises not from picking a side, but from standing quietly at the center, allowing joy and sorrow, calm and restlessness, hope and grief to live side by side inside you without tearing you apart. For most of your life, you were taught to choose, to pick the good and push away the bad, to chase happiness and destroy sadness, to celebrate success and hide failure, to love peace and reject conflict. But life never agreed to split itself so neatly. Life never promised to hand you only the polished parts. Life never said it would offer you joy without sorrow, love without loss, light without shadow. Inside every moment of laughter, there is a thread of fragility, the knowing that the moment will pass. Inside every sorrow, there is a seed of tenderness, the reminder that you cared enough to hurt. Inside every victory, there is the echo of every stumble it took to get there. Inside every peace, there is a background hum of all the storms it took to reach this clearing. Wholeness does not come from choosing only the parts you like. It comes from welcoming the whole impossible, messy, beautiful weave of opposites that life offers you. It comes from realizing that you are big enough to hold contradictions without collapsing. You can be joyful and grieving at the same time. You can feel powerful and afraid in the same breath. You can be full of hope and still carry a quiet sadness that never fully leaves you. You are not broken because you feel many things at once. You are not weak because your heart cannot be sorted into neat categories. You are alive. You are human. You are vast. The mind wants to make things clean. It wants a neat map. It wants to say, if I am sad, I am failing. If I am afraid, I am weak. If I am restless, I am broken. But the heart knows better. The heart knows that sorrow and joy can dance together, that fear and courage can walk hand in hand, that restlessness can sit quietly beside peace, neither destroying the other. When you stop trying to sort your emotions into right and wrong, good and bad, you create a deeper kind of peace. Not a fragile peace that depends on everything going your way. A real peace. A peace that can stand in the middle of a raging storm and still breathe. A peace that can sit with sorrow without being drowned. A peace that can laugh even with tears still wet on your cheeks. This kind of peace is not won by fighting your emotions into submission. It is found by embracing them, by opening your arms wide enough to say, you are all welcome here, joy and sorrow, light and darkness, certainty and doubt. All of you have a place inside me. When you embrace contradictions, you stop living in fear of yourself. You stop treating certain emotions like enemies that must be defeated. You stop running from the parts of your experience that don't fit your idea of how life was supposed to feel. You allow life to be what it is, not what you thought it would be. And in that allowing, you find yourself, not the small self that needs to be perfect, not the fearful self that needs everything to make sense, but the real self, the vast self, the self that is wide enough for everything that comes and goes. The more you allow contradictions to live inside you, the less afraid you are of change, the less rattled you are by the inevitable shifts of life, the more open you become to the richness that only comes from letting life be messy and complex and wild and real. You stop needing every day to be purely happy to call your life good. You stop needing every relationship to be free of conflict to call it love. You stop needing every plan to succeed, to call yourself worthy. You realize that a good life is not a life without sorrow. It is a life where sorrow and joy sit at the same table, where grief and gratitude drink from the same cup, where hope and heartbreak braid their fingers together and pray for another sunrise. You realize that you can feel restless and still be exactly where you need to be, that you can feel doubt and still be full of faith, that you can feel tired and still be deeply alive. There is a strength that grows when you stop demanding that life be simple, a strength that says, I can hold all of this, a strength that says, I do not have to be one thing at a time. I can be many things, shifting and swirling, and still be whole. Tonight, as you rest, feel the contradictions moving inside you. Feel the sadness that does not erase your joy. Feel the gratitude that does not erase your longing. Feel the peace that can hold your restlessness without trying to kill it. Feel how vast you really are. Feel how strong you really are. Not because you have resolved everything into neat, clean answers, but because you have allowed everything to be here, breathing together inside you. Maybe the real healing was never about fixing yourself into one permanent state. Maybe the real healing was always about learning to hold the wild, contradictory music of your own heart with tenderness instead of judgment. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the quiet miracle of this truth settling into your bones. That you are not meant to choose between light and dark, between certainty and doubt, between joy and sorrow. You are meant to live fully in all of it, to hold it all, to be the wide sky under which all the weathers of the soul are allowed to pass. And once you allow all the contradictions of life to breathe inside you without trying to sort them or silence them, another quiet truth begins to reveal itself. You realize it's not only your emotions that need more space, it's the entire world itself. That life was never meant to be crammed into the narrow frame of your opinions. That true freedom comes from letting go of the need to shrink everything down to something small enough to control. There is a kind of peace that rises when you stop trying to label everything, when you stop needing every moment, every person, every experience to fit neatly inside your mind's small definitions. The mind loves to judge. It loves to sort, to measure, to divide. It wants to know, immediately and completely, whether something is good or bad, right or wrong, safe or dangerous, worthy or unworthy. The mind believes that if it can just slap a label on everything fast enough, it will be able to move through life without fear, without uncertainty, without surprise. But life is too vast for labels. Life is too wild for neat categories. Life is bigger, messier, richer than anything the mind can pin down with an opinion. Every opinion you have about the world is like a tiny window carved into an endless sky. It frames a small piece of the view, but it leaves most of the sky unseen. When you cling tightly to your opinions, you are not seeing more clearly. You are seeing less. You are living in a box of your own making, mistaking your small window for the whole horizon. The mind says, "This is how things are." But life keeps moving. Life keeps shifting. Life keeps revealing layers you cannot see from where you stand. Every judgment you make freezes the flow of life into a snapshot, a frozen image that cannot capture the full reality. And then you live inside that frozen picture, reacting to your opinion instead of responding to the living world around you. Opinions are not wrong. They are part of being human. They are the mind's attempt to make sense of a world that is too vast to grasp all at once. But when opinions harden into rigid truths, when you forget that they are only partial views, you lose the openness that allows life to keep teaching you, surprising you, awakening you. Acceptance means allowing life to be bigger than your mind's opinions. It means remembering that every person you meet is more than the story you tell yourself about them. It means remembering that every situation you encounter is deeper and more complex than your first reaction suggests. It means remembering that life is not obligated to match your assumptions, and that this is not a failure. It is a gift. The more you insist that life match your opinions, the more you suffer. The more you cling to your judgments, the more you shrink your world down to the size of your fears and your past experiences. But when you let go, when you loosen your grip, when you allow yourself to meet each moment without demanding that it fit a pre-written script, you step into a world that is infinitely more alive. Real wisdom grows not from having the right opinions, but from having an open heart, from being willing to be wrong, from being willing to see more, from being willing to let life teach you things you never expected to learn. You can still have preferences, you can still have values, you can still stand for what matters to you. But you do not have to turn your preferences into prisons. You do not have to turn your values into weapons. You do not have to turn your love for truth into a fear of being changed. The world is not static. It is alive. It is breathing. It is unfolding new mysteries every day. When you allow the world to be bigger than your opinions, you allow yourself to keep growing with it. You allow yourself to be shaped by experiences you would have rejected before. You allow yourself to be softened by people you would have judged too quickly. You allow yourself to be healed by moments you might have missed because you thought you already knew what life had to offer. Tonight, as you rest, notice the places inside you where your opinions have become too heavy, too rigid. Notice where you have been clinging to a view of yourself, of others, of life, that feels tight, that feels small, that feels like a burden instead of a blessing. And then, gently, lovingly, let it go. Let the world be bigger than you thought. Let the people around you be more complex than you judged. Let yourself be more mysterious than the labels you have worn. Let life surprise you. You do not need to understand everything to be at peace. You do not need to categorize everything to feel safe. You do not need to reduce the richness of life to a list of opinions to find your place within it. Maybe real safety comes not from knowing, but from trusting. Trusting that you can meet each moment as it comes. Trusting that you are wide enough, soft enough, strong enough to live in a world that is wilder and stranger and more beautiful than your mind alone can imagine. Maybe real clarity comes not from narrowing your vision, but from expanding it. From standing in the middle of mystery without demanding it make itself small enough to fit inside your old beliefs. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the first soft breath of that openness filling your chest. Not because you solved all the questions, not because you nailed down all the answers, but because you finally remembered that you were never meant to shrink life into something safe and knowable. You were meant to dance with it. You were meant to wonder at it. You were meant to be changed by it, again and again, forever. And once you allow the world to be bigger than your mind's small opinions, something even more tender begins to surface. You realize it isn't just the world you have tried to shrink. It's your own hopes, your own dreams, your own quiet visions of how life should have unfolded. And when those hopes fracture against reality, something inside aches for a release that most people never give themselves permission to feel. There is a quiet kind of sorrow that many carry without knowing. The grief of all the things they expected, all the futures they planned, all the versions of life that never came to be. Nobody teaches you how to grieve the life you didn't get. Nobody shows you how to mourn the expectations that clung to your chest like secret promises. You are taught to grieve death, to grieve big visible losses, but no one tells you what to do with the small deaths, the quiet deaths, the loss of the job you thought you would have, the ending of a friendship you thought would last forever, the dream of a version of yourself that never fully bloomed. These are losses too. These are real, and until they are grieved, they weigh heavy inside you, pulling your spirit down in ways you cannot always name. Expectations are invisible threads you weave through your heart. They tell you stories about how things are supposed to be, about who you are supposed to become, about how people are supposed to love you, about how your life is supposed to look. And when reality refuses to match those threads, it feels like a betrayal, like a deep, aching tear inside the fabric of your being. Most people try to patch over these tears quickly. They distract themselves. They tell themselves to move on. They pretend it didn't matter that much. But underneath, the pain lingers, unspoken, unacknowledged, unreleased. It turns into bitterness. It turns into numbness. It turns into a quiet disconnection from life itself. But there is another way, a gentler way, a braver way. You can grieve the expectations you lost. You can honor the hopes that carried you forward, even if they were never fulfilled. You can make space for the sadness instead of pretending it doesn't belong. You can hold a quiet funeral for the futures that never came, lighting a candle for each one, not in anger, but in love. Grieving your expectations is not giving up. It is not weakness. It is not admitting failure. It is an act of deep respect for your own humanity. It is saying, I see you, my old hopes. I thank you. I release you. It is unclenching your hands from the ghost of what could have been so that you can finally embrace what is here. The ritual of release does not have to be grand. It does not have to be public. It can be as simple as sitting quietly and naming what you had hoped for but did not receive, speaking it aloud, writing it down, letting the tears come if they need to, letting the silence hold you if words feel too small. It can be as simple as breathing into the places that feel empty now and whispering to them, "It's okay, I am still here." Every time you allow yourself to consciously grieve an expectation, you loosen a knot inside you. You untangle yourself from the past. You make room for something new to grow, something real, something rooted not in fantasy, but in the fertile ground of acceptance. Some expectations are small. Some are enormous. Some are ones you forgot you were even carrying until life placed them gently, broken, in your hands. It could be the expectation that a parent would always understand you. The expectation that a love would never leave. The expectation that your body would always be strong, that your dreams would unfold easily. that the road would be smooth. It hurts to grieve these things because it hurts to admit how much you cared. It hurts to admit that life does not bend itself to our desires, no matter how pure those desires are. But there is a deeper healing that only begins once you allow yourself to feel that hurt instead of hiding from it. You are allowed to miss what never happened. You are allowed to mourn the wedding that never came, the career that never took flight, the version of yourself you once believed you would become. You are allowed to cry over futures you will never live, and you are allowed to do so without shame. Because grieving expectations is an act of love. Love for the part of you that dared to hope, dared to believe, dared to dream. Love for the part of you that reached forward even when life offered no guarantees. You are not wrong for having hoped. You are not foolish for having dreamed. You are human, beautifully, gloriously human, and your willingness to feel the loss of what might have been is what keeps your heart alive, tender, and open. Some people believe that if you grieve too much, you will sink into despair. But it is the refusal to grieve that creates despair. It is the numbing, the denying, the pushing away that hardens the heart into something brittle and cold. True grief softens you. True grief frees you. True grief clears the stagnant waters inside you so that life can flow again. Tonight, as you rest, feel the silent griefs you have been carrying. Feel the weight of the expectations you never gave yourself permission to mourn. Feel the sadness not as something wrong, but as something sacred. Maybe you can light a small candle in your heart for each one. For the friendships that faded, for the hopes that cracked and fell away, for the dreams that dissolved in your hands. Light them with tenderness, light them with honor, light them with gratitude for having existed, even if only in the soft spaces of your imagining. And then, gently, let them go. Let them float away like paper lanterns on a dark river. Bless them as they drift beyond your reach. Bless yourself for having loved them enough to hurt when they slipped away. You do not need to carry every old hope like a ghost on your back. You do not need to keep measuring your worth against futures that never arrived. You can step forward lighter, freer, clearer. Grieving expectations does not mean you will stop dreaming. It means you will dream with open hands instead of clenched fists. It means you will move forward, not carrying the weight of broken blueprints, but trusting in your own ability to live fully with whatever life offers next. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the first sweet taste of that release rising inside you. Not because the past hurts less, but because you are finally allowing yourself to honor it, to bless it, and to let it go. And once you allow yourself to grieve the futures that never arrived, something even softer begins to unfold. You realize that it is not just lost hopes that burden the heart. It is also the heavy, endless question that rises when life doesn't make sense. The aching demand to know why, to solve the unanswerable, to force life to explain itself before you can make peace. But there is a deeper way of living, and it begins by honoring the sacred pause before demanding answers. There is a freedom waiting for you when you stop needing every heartbreak, every twist of fate, every unanswered prayer to come with a reason neatly attached. There are moments when life breaks you open so suddenly, so completely, that the first word your heart cries out is why. Why did this happen? Why now? Why me? Why them? Why this way? The mind races to assemble causes, reasons, justifications, any explanation that will make the pain feel a little less raw, a little less chaotic. Because somewhere inside, you have been taught to believe that if you can find the cause, you can fix the wound. If you can name the reason, you can stop the ache. But life is not always so simple. Life does not always hand you clean answers wrapped in logic and clarity. Sometimes things fall apart for reasons you cannot see. Sometimes sorrow comes with no neat story to explain it. Sometimes grief moves in like a sudden storm with no warning, no map, no apology. And trying to force life to explain itself only deepens the suffering. It turns your pain into a riddle you are trapped trying to solve forever. There is a sacred pause you can learn to enter in those moments. A pause before the frantic search for why. A pause that says, maybe it's okay not to know right now. Maybe it's okay not to make sense of this moment. Maybe the peace you are searching for is not hidden in some answer waiting to be uncovered. Maybe the peace is already here, waiting for you to stop digging and simply breathe. The mind will resist this. It will whisper that you must find the cause or you will never heal. It will shout that not knowing is dangerous, that uncertainty must be conquered. It will tempt you to invent stories just to fill the silence. Stories that blame yourself, stories that blame others, stories that turn pain into punishment. But the heart knows something deeper. The heart knows that not all suffering has a visible cause, that not all wounds come with explanations, that sometimes life simply moves in ways that are mysterious, unpredictable, beyond your small human understanding, and that this does not mean life is cruel. It simply means life is vast. When you stop needing an answer, you make space for something larger than answers. You make space for presence. You make space for tenderness. You make space for healing that does not depend on intellectual understanding. You allow the wound to close, not through solving it, but through loving it. You are allowed to ask why. You are allowed to wonder. You are allowed to sit with your questions. But you are also allowed to stop chasing explanations that will never satisfy the ache. You are allowed to rest in the mystery without demanding that it explain itself before you can heal. Sometimes the most sacred thing you can do is sit beside your own heartbreak without trying to rearrange it into a story that makes sense. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is breathe through the confusion instead of building more layers of noise over it. There is a clarity that rises only after the questioning quiets. A clarity not born from answers, but from presence. A clarity that says, I do not know why this happened, and I do not have to know in order to keep living, loving, breathing. You are not broken because you don't understand everything that hurt you. You are not failing because the pieces don't fit into a neat puzzle. You are simply human, standing in the middle of a universe too vast for the mind to map completely. The sacred pause is not about giving up on meaning. It is about recognizing that meaning is not always immediate, not always intellectual, not always linear. It is about honoring that some things only reveal their gifts slowly, through time, through living, through the soft unfolding of your own becoming. Tonight, as you rest, feel the questions you have been carrying. Feel the aching whys that echo in the corners of your heart. Feel the longing to solve them, to stitch the wound closed with certainty, and then, gently, tenderly, allow yourself to pause. Breathe into the silence that lives beyond the questions. Let yourself rest in the not knowing. Let yourself be held by something bigger than answers. Trust that healing can happen even without reasons. Trust that peace can rise even in the middle of mystery. Maybe you will never know why certain doors closed, why certain people left, why certain dreams crumbled. Maybe you will never be able to piece together all the causes and effects. And maybe that's okay. Maybe your healing does not need a courtroom of evidence. Maybe your healing only needs your willingness to stop fighting the unknown. The sacred pause is an act of trust. Trust that life, in all its strange movements, is still carrying you. Trust that meaning can exist even when you cannot see it. Trust that your soul is growing, even through the moments that make no sense. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the first gentle waves of that deeper peace rising inside you. Not because the questions are answered, not because the pain is fully gone, but because you finally allowed yourself to stop demanding explanations from a mystery that was always meant to be lived, not solved. And once you allow yourself to live inside the sacred pause without forcing life to explain itself, something even more profound becomes visible. You begin to see that it's not only the unanswered questions that keep pain alive, but also the silent wars you wage against your own feelings, that what you push away does not leave. It lingers, it echoes, it roots itself deeper, and true freedom begins not when you win the fight, but when you stop fighting altogether. There is a quiet truth few are taught, but all must eventually learn. The more you resist what hurts, the tighter it clings. The more you push it away, the deeper it settles into your bones. Every one of us, at some point, tries to outrun pain. We tell ourselves that if we can deny it, argue with it, overpower it, it will finally leave us alone. We try to crush sadness with distraction. We try to silence fear with anger. We try to erase grief by pretending we are already healed. But pain does not dissolve because you resist it. Pain does not disappear because you refuse to look at it. Pain, when resisted, sinks its roots deeper. It grows stronger. It wraps itself tighter around your heart, not because it wants to destroy you, but because you have given it no safe place to be seen, felt, understood. The mirror principle is simple and devastating at the same time. What you resist persists. What you deny controls you. What you push away keeps finding its way back, not because life is cruel, but because healing is trying to happen, and healing cannot happen without truth. When you fight your own pain, you are fighting against the very movement that is trying to set you free. It is not the feeling itself that causes endless suffering. It is the resistance to the feeling. It is the tightening, the clenching, the desperate attempt to force the river to flow differently. It is the war you wage inside yourself that leaves you exhausted, not the sadness, not the fear, not the loss. If you can stop fighting, even for one breath, you can feel the difference. You can feel how much energy has been spent not on living, but on resisting life itself. Acceptance does not mean you love the pain. Acceptance does not mean you enjoy the fear. Acceptance means you stop building walls around what is already here. It means you stop sharpening swords to fight what is already inside your chest. It means you open your hands and say, "I will not resist you anymore." And in that moment, something begins to shift. The pain that felt unbearable begins to soften. The sadness that felt endless begins to move. The fear that felt paralyzing begins to breathe. Pain is like a guest knocking at your door. If you pretend you are not home, it knocks louder. If you shout at it to go away, it pounds harder. If you open the door, even just a crack, and say, "I see you," sometimes it only needs to be seen to leave you in peace. Other times it will sit with you for a while. Other times it will bring you a lesson, a gift wrapped in rough hands. But always, always, meeting it with acceptance changes the story. You do not have to like everything you feel. You do not have to agree with everything life hands you. But you can meet it without resistance. You can meet it with the simple bravery of saying, "This too is part of my path." And when you do, you reclaim the energy that was trapped in fighting yourself. You reclaim the softness that makes healing possible. You reclaim the trust that says, "Even this will pass through me if I allow it." The things you resist the most are often the places where the most powerful healing is trying to happen. The sadness you try to ignore is the sadness asking to be grieved so you can be lighter. The fear you try to deny is the fear asking to be felt so it can loosen its grip. The anger you push away is the anger asking to be heard, honored, and then released. Resistance holds the wound frozen. Acceptance lets it breathe, move, heal. This does not mean passively drowning in pain. It does not mean giving up. It means learning to stay soft where you used to harden. It means learning to breathe where you used to brace. It means learning to open where you used to close. You cannot outfight your own heart. You can only love it back to wholeness. Tonight, as you rest, notice the places where resistance still lives in you. Notice where you are tightening against life. Notice where you are clenching against feelings you don't want to feel. Notice without judgment, without shame. Just notice. And then, tenderly, gently, invite those places to soften. You do not have to force it. You do not have to hurry. Just invite. Just breathe. You are allowed to feel everything you feel. You are allowed to let the storm pass through you without holding up shields against it. You are allowed to be human, to be tender, to be in process. Maybe you will find that the emotions you thought would destroy you if you let them in are not as dangerous as you feared. Maybe you will find that sadness, when fully felt, moves like a river, not a prison. Maybe you will find that anger, when fully honored, burns clean and then fades like a fire that has completed its work. Maybe you will find that fear, when embraced, shrinks down to a size you can carry with grace. The mirror principle teaches you that your inner world responds not to what you fight, but to what you love. Not to what you resist, but to what you allow. Healing comes when you stop building cages around your own heart. Freedom comes when you stop seeing parts of yourself as enemies to defeat. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the first gentle movements of peace beginning to rise. Not because everything feels easy, not because all the feelings are gone, but because you are no longer wasting your strength fighting shadows, because you are standing at last with open hands and an open heart, allowing life to move through you exactly as it needs to. And once you stop resisting what rises inside you, something even deeper begins to whisper through the silence. You start to see that it was never just your emotions you were trying to control, it was life itself. Every plan, every checklist, every desperate attempt to script your future was born from the same old fear. But there is a different way to live, one that begins not with mastery, but with surrender to the mystery that was always moving through you. There is a quiet power waiting in the moment you stop trying to write every line of your story and trust that the author you cannot see might know better paths than you ever dared to imagine. From the beginning, you were taught to plan, to map, to organize. You learned that if you could set enough goals, arrange enough details, predict enough outcomes, you could create the life you wanted. You believed that control was safety, that certainty was success, that a future shaped by your own hands would be better than any future left to chance. And for a while, maybe it even seemed to work. The right steps, the careful choices, the perfect strategies. They gave the illusion that life was something you could manage like a project, something you could bend into shape if only you worked hard enough. But sooner or later, life cracks through that illusion. A plan falls apart, a path vanishes. A door that was supposed to open stays stubbornly closed. And in that moment, something in you breaks. The mind scrambles to fix it, to build a new plan, to regain the illusion of control. But if you listen deeper, beyond the panic, beyond the noise, you will hear a different invitation rising. A quieter, wiser voice, whispering that maybe you were never meant to be the sole author of your story. Maybe there has always been an unseen intelligence weaving something larger, something wilder, something more beautiful than anything you could have written alone. Accepting the unknown author of your life does not mean giving up. It does not mean sitting passively and waiting for everything to happen without you. It means moving through life with open hands instead of clenched fists. It means listening more deeply, moving more softly, trusting that the river knows where it's going, even when you cannot see the end from where you stand. The plans you make are not bad. They are part of your dance with life, but they are not the whole dance. They are sketches, not certainties. They are starting points, not prisons. When you mistake your plans for promises, you set yourself up for endless heartbreak. But when you hold your plans lightly, you allow life to surprise you, to guide you, to bring you to places you never could have found by following only the map in your hand. There is an intelligence moving through life that your mind cannot predict. It is the intelligence that turns seeds into forests, that pulls tides across oceans, that spins stars into existence without blueprints or approval. It is the same intelligence that breathes your body without your permission, that heals your wounds without your command, that brings strangers into your life at just the right moment, without your planning. When you trust this deeper intelligence, you begin to live differently. You begin to listen for signs instead of forcing directions. You begin to pay attention to the way some doors open easily, while others resist, no matter how hard you push. You begin to notice the tiny nudges, the quiet synchronicities, the invisible threads pulling you toward paths you would never have dared to dream. Sometimes life's intelligence moves you through loss to reach a deeper kind of love. Sometimes it reroutes you through failure to prepare you for a success you were not ready for. Sometimes it breaks your heart, not to punish you, but to break it open wide enough to receive a bigger joy. You cannot always see the meaning in the moment. You cannot always understand the weaving from your place inside the loom. But if you stay open, if you stay trusting, if you stay willing to move with life instead of against it, you will find that even the detours were never really detours. They were part of the path all along. There will be fear, of course. Fear that letting go of control will leave you lost. Fear that trusting the unknown will lead to disaster. Fear that surrender means weakness. But if you look closely, you will see that most of your exhaustion has not come from moving through life. It has come from fighting it. Most of your heartbreak has not come from life refusing to give you what you needed. It has come from you refusing to let go of what you thought you had to have. Trusting the unknown author is not about believing that life will always be easy. It is about believing that you are not alone in the writing of your story. It is about believing that there are hands wiser than yours guiding the pen. It is about believing that there is a purpose unfolding even when you cannot see it. Tonight, as you rest, feel the places where you are still clenching around your own plans. Feel the tightness in your chest where you are trying to force life to move on your schedule. Feel the exhaustion in your bones from carrying the weight of trying to script every chapter. And then, gently, lovingly, let it go. Breathe into the mystery, breathe into the trust, breathe into the wild, unpredictable, beautiful intelligence of life itself. Let yourself rest in the knowing that you do not have to control every detail to be exactly where you need to be. Let yourself rest in the knowing that even the wrong turns are being woven into something right. You are not failing because life moved differently than you planned. You are not behind because your map no longer fits the road you are walking. You are being guided. You are being shaped. You are being led home by paths you could never have chosen on your own. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the first sweet waves of that trust rising inside you. Not because you figured it all out, not because you have all the answers, but because you finally remembered that you were never meant to write this whole story alone. You were meant to live it, to breathe it, to dance with it, one unfolding page at a time. And once you begin trusting the unseen intelligence that weaves your life, another doorway quietly opens. You realize that the most painful struggle was never just about the future you tried to control. It was also the war you waged against this very moment, the place where life was already breathing, already offering everything you were seeking, if only you could stop demanding it be different. There is a kind of peace that waits quietly under all your striving, a peace that begins not when life finally matches your plans, but when you stop fighting what is already here. The mind is forever building two worlds, the world of what is happening now and the world of what should be happening instead. It compares them endlessly. It finds faults. It builds bridges of regret stretching back into the past. It builds towers of anxiety reaching forward into the future. It spins in frustration, disappointment, urgency, because reality and imagination never fully match. And in that spinning, something precious is lost. The living, breathing richness of the present moment is sacrificed for the endless tug-of-war between what is and what could have been. You are taught from an early age to measure the moment, to weigh it against your expectations, to judge it as good enough or lacking, to treat the now as something that must justify itself before it is allowed to be accepted. But no moment was ever meant to pass that test. No moment can satisfy a mind that is trapped in the endless hunger for things to be different. And so the war continues, day after day, tearing you away from the only place life actually exists, here. Melting into the present is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is not about forcing yourself to feel happy about things that hurt. It is about laying down the weapons you use against what already is. It is about breathing into the raw, unpolished reality of this moment without needing it to be anything else first. It is about realizing that peace is not the prize you get for winning the fight against now. Peace is what rises the instant you stop fighting. Every time you resist the present, you split yourself in two. Part of you stands here in the reality of your life. Part of you drifts somewhere else, chasing a better version of the moment that doesn't exist. That splitting creates endless friction inside you. It creates exhaustion. It creates anxiety. It creates a subtle ache that follows you even on your best days, because somewhere underneath, you are always abandoning yourself. You are always declaring that here is not enough, that now is not enough, that you are not enough. But when you melt into the present, the splitting ends. The mind and the body and the heart return to the same place. You land fully inside your own skin. You stop hovering over your life like a critic and start breathing inside it like a living soul. You stop waiting for some future perfection and start tasting the imperfect beauty already woven into this very breath. Melting into the present does not mean you lose ambition. It does not mean you stop growing or striving or dreaming. It means you stop building your identity on the idea that happiness lives only in the next achievement, the next success, the next moment. It means you carry your dreams lightly, tenderly, without using them to punish the life you are living now. It is possible to long for change while loving where you are. It is possible to work toward a better future without rejecting the value of this imperfect, unfinished, wildly alive moment. It is possible to want more without poisoning the now with endless dissatisfaction. The present moment is not a test you have to pass. It is not an enemy you have to defeat. It is a living, breathing, endlessly unfolding gift. And the more you allow yourself to receive it exactly as it is, the more energy you free up for real transformation. Not transformation fueled by shame and rejection, but transformation born from love, from deep presence, from joy. There will still be moments when the mind wants to pull you back into the war, moments when you find yourself comparing, resisting, demanding that now be something different. That's okay. That's human. But each time you notice it, you have the chance to soften, to breathe, to melt back into the truth that nothing needs to change before you can be fully here. Maybe the rain falls on a day you wanted sunshine. Maybe the plan unravels when you needed it to hold together. Maybe the conversation does not go the way you hoped. Maybe your heart aches with dreams not yet fulfilled. Even so, even then, there is something sacred happening in the rawness of now, something that cannot be touched if you are always reaching past it for something else. The moment you stop demanding that now justify itself is the moment you reclaim your own life. The moment you stop judging each experience by how closely it matches the script you wrote is the moment you begin to really live. Tonight, as you rest, Feel the places where you are still fighting the present. Feel the tightness of expectations. Feel the ache of comparison. Feel the invisible pressure that says, it should be different. I should be different. Life should be different. And then, gently, with deep tenderness, let it go. Melt into the moment. Melt into the sound of your own breathing. Melt into the weight of your body resting against the earth. Melt into the simple truth that this moment, exactly as it is enough to hold you. You do not have to fix everything before you can be at peace. You do not have to earn your way into presence. You are already here. You are already breathing. You are already worthy. Maybe the biggest healing is not found in changing your life, but in finally saying yes to the life you already have. Maybe the richest joy is not waiting on some distant horizon, but sitting quietly inside the life you are living, waiting for you to come home. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the first soft sweetness of that homecoming rising in your chest. Not because everything is perfect, not because the world stopped being complicated, but because you stopped abandoning yourself to the fantasy of what should be and finally allowed yourself to belong to what already is. And once you finally melt into the life that is unfolding right here and now, a deeper understanding begins to rise. You start to see that even the shape of your path was never meant to be straight, that life does not move in clean lines, but in spirals, in setbacks, in strange hidden shortcuts that only make sense when you stop demanding progress look like a perfect staircase to the sky. There is a kind of freedom that awakens when you stop judging your journey by how fast or straight it seems to move, and start trusting that even the circles and detours are carrying you exactly where you are meant to go. From the beginning, you were taught to see progress as something linear, step by step, goal after goal, achievement following achievement in a neat, upward climb. You were taught to measure success by how efficiently you move forward, how quickly you close the distance between where you are and where you think you should be. But life never agreed to that structure. Life moves more like a river carving stone, looping and bending, doubling back and leaping forward without warning. It moves like a wild dance, not a march in straight lines. And when you forget this, you suffer. You tell yourself you are failing because you find yourself facing old fears again. You tell yourself you are broken because healing does not move faster. You tell yourself you are behind because your path has turned in ways you never expected. But the truth is simpler and more beautiful. Your life is unfolding exactly as it must, and its rhythms are wiser than the straight lines you tried to impose upon it. Progress often looks like circles. It looks like lessons revisited from new heights. It looks like feelings you thought you had outgrown rising again, not because you are moving backward, but because life is offering you a deeper layer of healing. It looks like dreams delayed, only to return in a way that serves you better than if they had arrived when you first demanded them. It looks like years that feel still, only to reveal later that they were the ground your soul needed to take root before blooming. The mind resists this. It wants a map. It wants a clear path. It wants proof that every step is moving you closer to your goal. But real growth does not happen in straight lines. Real growth is wild. Real growth is messy. Real growth sometimes requires you to get lost so you can find a deeper part of yourself you would have never discovered on a paved road. When you learn to accept the non-linear path, you stop measuring your worth by your speed. You stop judging your journey by how neatly it matches your plans. You begin to honor the deeper rhythms that life is moving through you. You begin to see that even the detours are sacred. Even the delays are part of the music. Even the setbacks are shaping you in ways you cannot yet see. Sometimes the biggest leaps forward are born from what looks like falling apart. Sometimes the moments when you feel most lost are the moments when life is turning you toward a better direction. Sometimes the dreams that don't come true are making space for dreams that will fit you better, stretch you deeper, awaken you more fully. There is no wasted time when you are living with an open heart. There are no wrong paths when you are willing to learn from where you are. There are no failures when you are willing to see every experience as part of your becoming. The mind will try to convince you otherwise. It will point to the old timelines. It will whisper that you should have been further by now. It will tempt you to despair over the years that unfolded differently than you imagined. But the soul knows better. The soul knows that life moves in sacred rhythms that the mind cannot predict. The soul knows that what looks like delay is often preparation, that what looks like failure is often redirection, that what looks like a circle is often a spiral carrying you higher than you realize. When you stop fighting the shape of your journey, you reclaim your joy. You reclaim your ability to find meaning even in the twists and turns. You reclaim your ability to celebrate the hidden victories that are unfolding inside you, even when they do not show on the surface. Maybe the healing you are doing right now is invisible to the world, but monumental to your soul. Maybe the patience you are cultivating is weaving a strength inside you that nothing can take away. Maybe the compassion you are learning by facing your own struggles will someday be the very thing that allows you to light the way for others. Tonight, as you rest, feel the places where you are still measuring your life against straight lines. Feel the tightness of self-judgment. Feel the ache of believing you should be somewhere else by now. Feel the silent pressure to have everything figured out, and then, with tenderness, let it go. Breathe into the spiral of your life. Breathe into the messy, glorious, unpredictable path you are walking. Breathe into the trust that even when you cannot see the destination, you are not lost. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are living the exact story your soul came here to live, with all its twists and turns, its pauses and leaps, its heartaches and miracles. Maybe progress is not about how fast you move. Maybe progress is about how deeply you stay awake to the journey. Maybe success is not about reaching a destination. Maybe success is about becoming the kind of person who can dance with the spirals, who can find beauty in the detours, who can trust that the hidden shortcuts will reveal themselves exactly when you are ready. And maybe, as you drift into sleep tonight, you will feel the first soft waves of that deeper trust rising inside you. Not because the path has become straight, not because the journey has become simple, but because you have stopped demanding it be anything other than exactly what it is, your sacred, wild, perfectly imperfect way home. You've just traveled through the deepest lessons most people never hear. Through surrender, through imperfect moments, through letting go of unfinished stories, unfair expectations, and the heavy burden of trying to control a river that was never meant to be held. You breathed through discomfort, released the endless war against what should be, softened the grip on identity, and learned how even hope can sometimes become a cage if clung to too tightly. You touched the silent space between your reactions, found trust in groundlessness, and embraced the messy, beautiful contradictions that make life real. You opened your hands to a world too vast for opinions. You grieved the futures that never came. You stepped into the mystery without needing it to explain itself. You discovered how resistance feeds pain, and how letting life move through you awakens a strength deeper than any plan you could ever create. You melted into now. You surrendered to spirals, detours, and hidden shortcuts that were never mistakes. And somewhere along this journey, maybe without even realizing it, you became a little lighter, a little freer, a little more at peace with the life that is already carrying you. If this journey touched something inside you, even just a little, I invite you to share it in the comments by writing, "I am ready to live fully as I am." Let's fill the space with the energy of those who are choosing acceptance, choosing peace, choosing life. And if you want to keep walking this path of inner strength, of freedom, of deeper truth, don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell. This is only the beginning, and I would be honored to keep walking with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being brave enough to listen. Sleep well, beautiful soul.